Hello everyone. If you are new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do it, thanks. By the way, I also have a Luffy fan fiction channel. If you are interested, the link is in the description.
Naruto, The Game of Life by SeerKing. Uzumaki Naruto wakes up one day to find out that his life has been turned into a RPG game, thanks to his gamer ability. What should he do about this? Smarter Naruto. Naruto X Harem.
Chapter 9. Random encounter early morning, the next day. Naruto's apartment. Naruto had a look at his stats as he ate his breakfast. Name: Uzumaki Naruto. Class: The gamer level, 7. Next level, 19.89%. Title: Academy student, plus 25% express to LV10, age, 12. HP: 900 CP, 900 STR. 18, -5, STA. 38, -5, +10. Dex: 19, -5, Int. 19, +5, Wis. 20 LUK. Looking at his stats, Naruto felt a headache coming on. His stats had gone up by quite a bit compared with when he had first looked at them, but his stamina was still far and above the highest, while his strength stat had gone up by only 7. Hadn't he meant to do something about that? Wait a minute, Gal, I knew I was forgetting something, the blonde orphan exclaimed. He ran into his bedroom and frantically searched through his clothes before finally finding what he was looking for. The training weights, he declared as he found the box he had bought at Higarashi's the first time. He opened up the lid and saw instructions. Thank you for purchasing the Higurashi Special Training Weights. Copyright, Naruto read out loud. In order to use these weights to their full potential, please ensure that you wear all 4 simultaneously to ensure equal training on all 4 limbs. Already knew that. Once you place the training weights on, make the rat hand sign, channel chakra into the weights and call out a number from 1 to 5. This sets the weight to predetermined settings for your convenience. Newcomers are recommended to start on level 1 and build up to level 2 gradually. Okay. Sounds simple. In order to turn the weights off, make the rat hand sign once again and say, Kai. This will deactivate the weights immediately. Should it not, please bring them to the store for removal and a full refund. Naruto slid one on each of his arms and legs, then made the rat hand sign, 1. He immediately felt like someone had attached lead weights to his arms and legs. Not heavy ones, but very obviously there. You have been affected by the status effect, lesser weighted gravity. An idea occurred to him and he opened up his status screen and put the 5 points from the last level up into STR, making it 23, which helped in lightening the load a bit. Naruto walked around to try to get a feel for how hard it was to move with the weights on. Surprisingly, it was rather manageable, although he was slowed down somewhat. What now? He mused aloud as he sat back down and finished off his breakfast, a bowl of rice and miso soup. The academy wasn't on for the next couple of days, so what to do? Oh, I could train the jutsu Ruka-sensei taught me yesterday, he thought brightly, a smirk on his face as he recalled the trip to Ichiraku's that had shown a new light on the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and his gamer power. Flashback, a training aid? Naruto asked in surprise as he and Iruka-sensei were waiting for their ramen to be served. Yes. The scarred Chunin nodded. Originally, the Shadow Clone Jutsu was created for scouting purposes. How do you think the clones tell their creator information if only one hit dispels them? Really good life insurance? Naruto joked. Nice one, but no. Iruka replied with a grin, when you create a regular Bunshin, you're just creating an illusion that mimics your shape and appearance. When you create an elemental Bunshin, like your Iwa Bunshin, you're basically forcing chakra into a physical object and shaping it, again, to become a facsimile of you. Shadow clones are entirely made of chakra, to the point that they copy your chakra network and brain as well. In addition, there is a link between the clones and the creator, so when a Kage Bunshin dies, the creator receives a portion of the chakra used to create the back, as well as an entire copy of the clone's memories from the moment it was created to the moment it was destroyed. Naruto gaped at Iruka for a moment. None of that was on the information his gamer power had provided for him. Activating auto-update system, working. Done. From this point on, any information the gamer learns about any jutsu or skill they possess not already in the basic description provided by the skill window will automatically be added, and should that information increase the chakra cost of the jutsu, that will automatically be adjusted as well. That sound pretty awesome, Iruka-sensei, Naruto said, inwardly gaping at the recent update to his ability. This would rock. It is rather, Iruka agreed, but it is also dangerous. The information overload of as many clones as you made just now could overload your brain, knock you out and possibly cause brain damage if you receive them all at once. Try to only dispel 3 at a time if you can help it, okay? Sure thing. Naruto nodded. Oh boy, here comes my ramen. Flashback end. Naruto opened up his skill window and then the window for the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Instant, LV1. 00.00, the Nidaime Hokage's Shadow Clone Jutsu is one of his most widely known jutsu and was originally created for scouting dangerous locations. All clones possess the same physical capabilities as the original, are equipped as the original and can also use any jutsu known to the original. All memories of the clones are transferred to the user upon their destruction, as well as a tithe of the chakra used to create them. The downsides to this technique are twofold. First, it is very chakra intensive, meaning only the more powerful high Chunin and Jonin can make use of this technique. Secondly, it only takes a single solid hit to dispel the clone, making it impractical as a genuine combat technique. Owing to your exceptionally dense chakra as an Uzumaki, the CP cost of each clone is reduced by 75%. Additionally, you receive 10% of the chakra from each clone once it is destroyed. Hand sign. Clone hand sign initial cost for each shadow clone, 400 CP. Adjusted cost for each shadow clone, 100 CP. Chakra recovered after clone destruction, per clone, 10 CP. Holy crap, Naruto gaped. Now I can only make 9 of them. This sucks, I need to learn chakra control. The only skill he had to do with that was the tree climbing exercise skill, but that didn't actually apply the chakra control to his chakra from what he recalled. So, a chakra control skill. Ah, how the heck do I make a skill like that? Naruto shouted, tugging at his hair with both hands. Forget it. I'll practice with my Kodachi and Tanto. Thank Kami Tenten sold me these things. Heading to the dojo room, Naruto grabbed his practice weapons and examined them with observe. Tenten's well-crafted practice Kodachi practice weapon. Made by Higurashi Tenten, Akunoichi. This weapon has perfect balance and simulates the weight of a standard Kodachi perfectly. While not intended for actual combat, as the blade and point are blunt, this weapon can be used to protect yourself. Durability. 60/60ths bludgeoning damage. STR plus 1/5, Tenten's well-crafted practice Tanto. Practice weapon. Pair, made by Higurashi Tenten. Akunoichi. These weapons have perfect balance and simulate the weight of a standard Hira blade Tanto perfectly. While not intended for actual combat, as the edges and points are blunt, these weapons can be used to protect yourself. Durability. 45/45ths bludgeoning damage. STR plus 5, man. Tenten has awesome skills to make these, he muttered incredulously. Deciding that as he would be getting his Tanto first, he would train with the 2 practiced Tanto first as well. Putting the Kodachi to one side, Naruto held the practiced Tanto in his hands as if to test their weight. Not as heavy as I'd been expecting, he muttered. Now then, how does someone fight with 2 blades? He tried out a variety of arm positions, but none felt right. In the end, he held both in a reversed grip and it finally felt something like correct. Creating some Iwa Bunshin, Naruto sparred against them, finding that he was learning how to be comfortable with their weight in his hands as well as how best to swing and stab with the Tanto. Eventually repeated actions, the skill, self-taught Nito Ryu Tanto Kenjutsu, has been created. Self-taught Nito Ryu Tanto Kenjutsu. Level 1, 00.00, active and passive. Nito Ryu is the art of using a sword in both hands in order to fight. It is an aggressive style, relying on speed and dexterity to dodge the attacks of the enemy. Most people use set styles to fight with, but you have created your own. At the very least, it will stop you from cutting yourself while you wield your weapons. In addition, Tanto are designed to be used in very close proximity with the enemy. requiring highly advanced dodging and evasion skills to remain unharmed. Passively increases STR by 1%. Passively increases Dex by 2%. Actively increases damage with Tanto-type weapons by 3%. Nice. Naruto grinned. Oh? Feel the burn, STR has gone up by 1. That was quick. Man, these things are effective. Naruto grinned again. Dunno why more people don't use these. Naruto cocked his head to one side as he could have sworn that he heard someone shouting even more obnoxiously than he ever had. Shrugging, he returned to his training, this time taking up the Kodachi. Shorter than a katana, but longer than a wakizashi, Kodachi were seen as difficult to use. Naruto knew, thanks to Iruka-sensei's lecture the previous day regarding his chosen weapons. Kodachi were viewed with slight scorn and were seen entirely as a defensive weapon, earning it the name of the shield sword to those who practiced swordplay. However, Iruka-sensei had gone on to say, that was precisely why using it to attack with would be effective, as nobody would expect Naruto to do more than buy time while wielding his Kodachi. Acting in an unexpected manner was what Naruto did best, after all. After some training during which he learned that being hit by the sword bouncing off the walls and onto his ankle was very, very painful, the gamer came through for him once more. Self-taught Kodachi Kenjutsu. Level 1, 00.00, passive and active. Kenjutsu, the art of the sword for the purpose of battle, is an ancient art dating back centuries. Most people use a formal style, but you have created your own. At the very least, you will not cut your foot off while wielding your sword. Kodachi are defense-oriented weapons, so you gain +1 int while wielding a Kodachi to reflect the superior defenses you possess. Passively increases STR by 2%. Passively increases Dex by 2%. Actively increases damage dealt by Kodachi-type weapons by 5%. Why do all of them imply that I'm clumsy? Naruto growled. Seriously, every self-taught style he came up with made it sound like he had 2 left feet and was drunk as a lord on top of it all. Whatever. He muttered and destroyed his protesting Iwabunshin with his Kodachi. Time to work on his calligraphy. After he cleaned and stored his practice weapons, Naruto trotted back up to his rooms and settled down to start working when an idea occurred to him. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He commanded after he made the clone hand sign. 4 clones appeared in an explosion of chakra smoke and his CP dropped by almost half. Right. Let's get practicing, he ordered. Right? His clones echoed back at him and went to get some extra calligraphy supplies from his stock. It was a surprised Iruka who came and walked in on 5 Naruto clones working feverishly at his calligraphy. The scarred Chunin just looked for a minute as Naruto, one of them anyway, looked up and saw him. Ah! Iruka-sensei. The Naruto declared. Hey there. Iruka greeted the group in amusement. Which of you is the original Naruto? That'd be me. All of them declared at once, before they glared at each other. Who's the original? I am, damn you, one Naruto declared. Like hell, I am, another retorted. Oh, now it's on. Much to Iruka's amusement, the 5 Narutos then got into a fist fight, ending with 4 of them vanishing, leaving the original looking irritated. Damn mouthy clones. He muttered, are they supposed to do that? Act all mouthy and everything? It depends on the amount of chakra you put in them. Iruka replied with a chuckle, unlike elemental clones, which have a fixed amount of chakra that they need to be created, as well as a limit to how much each clone can have before the material becomes full to bursting and collapses. Shadow clones become a closer copy of the original as more chakra is spent on them, meaning they can even have personalities and be capable of independent thought if you invest enough chakra into them. Huh, Naruto looked thoughtful at this. Anyway, what's with the calligraphy? The Chunin-sensei asked. Oh, it's so I can start learning Fuinjutsu. Naruto said with a grin. I found out that the Uzumaki clan was famous for their ability to use seals, so I thought I'd learn it too. So you decided on learning calligraphy? Smart. Iruka said. Let's see, huh? Not bad. A little more and you'll be ready to try your hand at basic storage scrolls. Yata. Naruto cheered, before remembering something. Oh yeah, did you need? Am I not allowed to visit one of my students? Iruka feigned hurt. Ah, No, that's not it, Naruto denied quickly. Just having you on Naruto. Iruka ruffled the boy's hair. I came to see how you were doing. Just training. Naruto shrugged, it isn't like I have anything better to do. Iruka nodded sympathetically. I see, why don't you go to the library and borrow some books? The old lady at the library won't let me in. Naruto said glumly, and you need a library card to borrow anything, so I can't just hench to someone to borrow some. You sound like you've done that before, Iruka observed. When I went to get calligraphy supplies, I henged into you, Naruto muttered. That's odd. Iruka frowned. That did explain why the owner of the shop was surprised by him buying more, but there should be anti-genjutsu seals at the entrance to each store. No one should be able to enter them without the henge collapsing. Naruto blinked at this. That meant, oh, his henge wasn't just an illusion, it was solid, he'd forgotten about that. Maybe the seals need checked, he said with a shrug. Maybe. Iruka wasn't convinced, but he let it go. If Naruto had to use the transformation jutsu just to buy basic supplies, then there was no point scolding him for it. Perhaps a word with the Hokage was in order though. Naruto had obviously gotten so used to this kind of treatment that it was no longer something he noticed anymore. I'll have a word with Hokage-sama about the librarian. He said instead, that attitude isn't one that someone in charge of the civilian side of the library should have. The Konohagakure library was divided into two levels. One had the civilian library, with basic reading from fiction to non-fiction, as well as many copies of the Academy 3 jutsu for those who wished to study them. The other was the shinobi section, which held copies of non-clan ninjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu and genjutsu. A lot of them came from the archives of the Uchiha clan after they were massacred, from various enemy shinobi they had used their Sharingan on. The only way into the library was from a staircase guarded by two chunin and it led down under the civilian library. Naruto would be graduating in a few months' time and having access to the library was vital for both before and after the graduation. Okay. Naruto nodded. In the meantime, why don't you go and investigate the next area of training field 13? The scarred chunin suggested. I get the feeling that the chakra mutations are stronger there, so I'm planning on waiting until I get my tanto before trying there. Naruto replied seriously. Caution? From Naruto? He's matured. Iruka thought proudly. A couple of months ago, Naruto would have gotten himself into trouble by running headfirst into danger without a second thought. In that case, scour the areas you've already cleared for weapons and the like. He suggested, you found Toradora in one of the areas by happenstance, right? Now that mutants in the first two areas, you can search to your heart's content for any kunai, shuriken and the like that might be there. I doubt you'll be lucky enough to find another regular weapon, but you never know. Awesome. I never thought about it like that. Naruto exclaimed, thanks Iruka-sensei. No problem Naruto. Iruka replied, no problem at all. Later Sub-Area 1, Training Field 13 Naruto was quite pleased with himself. Thanks to his use of shadow clones, he had reached level 7 in calligraphy already, in addition to creating self-taught Nito Ryu Tanto Kenjutsu and self-taught Kodachi Kenjutsu. His Kage Bunshin no Jutsu had even leveled up once he beat the crap out of the 4 clones and dispelled them. If Naruto was any judge, with shadow clones, the longer they existed, the more experience he gained in the skill. He had no idea exactly how much express was made per minute or hour, but it had been enough to get his level 1 skill up to level 2. Maybe the 20-odd clones that he made yesterday had something to do with it, so creating and maintaining the clone dispersing and the chakra and memory return function all had something to do with how much experience Kage Bunshin no Jutsu received. Sounds like a theory. Still, what the heck? He muttered as he looked around the sub-area. It looked exactly the same as before, except less intimidating. There wasn't that odd sensation that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Observe has leveled up. Ignoring that his observe skill had leveled up to level 9, Naruto made several Iwa Bunshin and equipped them with Gansetsukan. Okay you guys. He called out to them. Spread out and find any weapons, chests or whatever looks like it doesn't belong here. Shout out if you find something. Got it, boss. The clones chorused back at him. At least Iwa Bunshin don't talk back if you give them orders, Naruto thought in relief. For the next few minutes, all was well. Occasionally, a clone discovered a shuriken or a kunai and they were placed in Naruto's inventory. Then, warning, random encounter initiated. What the, whoa? Naruto exclaimed as the scenery around him blurred and he was in the middle of the sub-area, where he had fought the berserk fox squirrel. He was accompanied by his confused and bewildered Iwa-Bunshin in short order. In areas not full of chakra mutations, the random encounter system is active. This can go off at any time and will drag you and any members of your party, including clones, into the random encounter zone, which you may only leave if you either defeat the enemy or use the escape skill. Have fun, I'll show you, have fun, you, Naruto muttered, but got distracted by a puppet appearing in front. It was about his height and had no face. He didn't look like a marionette or a bunraku puppet. What the heck was it? Possessed Mokujin. Level 8 tree that has been possessed by a lingering evil chakra. It has transformed into a Mokujin and will relentlessly attack any who go near it. Probably the residual chakra of the Kyuubi no Kitsune from the field boss. Naruto though darkly. Leaving the chakra out here was a bad idea. He should have done something before, and now there was a possessed tree on his case. Time to fell this tree, he declared. Attack. With a roar, his Iwa-Bunshin squad charged the possessed Mokujin, which chattered a series of wooden clicks before counter-charging. Very slowly. Naruto stayed at the back and lent support to his Iwa-Bunshin with his Hiko-Yoshin Shurikenjutsu, and occasionally his Futon Kaden Shuriken no Jutsu as well. The Mokujin was slow, but had a ridiculously high defense. The Gansetsukan couldn't cut it and the punches were about as effective as bad language against it. Ditto for the kunai and shuriken. Use. Doden. Dangan no Jutsu, on it, Naruto ordered. That was the heaviest hitting jutsu in his repertoire and this thing was slow enough that it had a good chance of being crushed by the rock missile. Two Iwa-Bunshin fell back and made the two hand signs that were for the earth jutsu before slamming their hands on the ground before them and calling out, Doden. Dangan no Jutsu. Two large menhir erupted from the ground and sailed through the air to smash into the Mokujin with the sound of splitting and splintering wood. The two Iwa-Bunshin crumbled into dust as they had used the last of their chakra. Possessed Mokujin, defeated. You gain 125 express. Phew. Naruto had to wipe his brow at the defeat of the Mokujin. He wandered up as the body crumbled away, revealing a Bakuto? Naruto had to blurt out. It was indeed a wooden sword, designed for training with swords. He observed it. High-quality Bakken, training weapon, a wooden sword, carved from wood to train in swordplay. Sturdy as it is not really meant for combat situations outside of Randori, but in an emergency situation, it can be turned to a weapon of last resort for self-defense. Bludgeoning damage. S+10, huh, not bad. Naruto commented as he deposited it in his inventory. He then found himself standing back where he had been before the random encounter, which was more disorientating than a side along Shunshin. In the next half hour, he got dragged into 3 more fights with possessed Mokujin, and came away with another high-quality Bakken. 8. Wooden charm. That added 1 to his stamina, not that he needed it, and a pair of wooden gourds. The last one was confusing, until he realized that if he could find a cork stopped, he had a pair of homemade water bottles, which would save him a bit of money. Now, where to find corks? The constant use of the Doden Dangan no Jutsu had leveled it up to level 3, just as the constant use of Doden ninjutsu had leveled up his secondary earth affinity, and Doden Iwa-Bunshin no Jutsu as well. The haul from the weapon search had yielded 10 kunai, 9 of which were good enough to be added to his stores, 12 shuriken, all of which were in good condition, and 1 chest. Upon opening that chest, Naruto discovered a scroll for a Fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu. Kiji Boi. He read off of the window that appeared, sealing jutsu. Cloth defense. What the heck? Meh. I can't use it yet, so into my inventory it goes. As he did so, he was dragged into yet another random encounter. "Ah, what now?" Naruto exclaimed as he and his replenished Iwa-Bunshin, replacing them was a pain, faced against what had to be a supersized Mokujin. It was twice the height and breadth of Choji's dad. Possessed Elder Mokujin, level 12, a tree that was over 100 years old was infected with an evil chakra, turning it into an Elder Mokujin. Its strength is far greater than that of the regular Mokujin. Dongan Barrage, now, Naruto ordered hurriedly. This was not something he had expected. Why was a boss character showing up here and now? All 8 of his Iwa Bunshin sent out a broadside of Dongan at the elder Mokujin, but it just walked forwards, smashing them out of the air like they were pebbles. Shit, it ain't working, boss, one Iwa Bunshin shouted. 4 of you get into close combat and keep its arms occupied. Naruto ordered, the rest of you attack with the Dongan again when the others have it distracted. The clones followed his orders. 4 of them created Gansetsukan and raced to distract the Mokujin up close and personal, while Naruto and the other 4 made ready to attack with the rock bullet jutsu. The Mokujin chattered a series of rattling wooden clicks and swung a large arm at the Iwa Bunshin, who dodged around it and started attacking the legs and what part of the torso they could reach with their staves. As the wooden monster smashed down in an attempt to smash the clones, Naruto and the others sent 5 Dongan at it, smashing into the sides of the Mokujin one after another and sending it crashing to the ground. Immediately, the Iwa Bunshin clambered upon it and started stabbing it on the head and upper torso with kunai and Gansetsukan. Spread out and surround it, Naruto. Why it had blocked all of the first barrage was that they all came from the same direction. Once the thing got up, it wouldn't have it so easy. As predicted, the elder Mokujin wasn't finished just yet and stood up, the Iwa Bunshin tumbling off like specks of dirt and crumbling to pieces on impact with the ground. Now, Naruto ordered and 5 Earthmen here ripped free of the ground and tore through the air at the elder Mokujin from 5 different directions. The wooden monster was smashed to pieces and scattered all over the area, letting Naruto breathe a sigh of relief. Then, "Boss, it's multiplying," one clone shouted. Sure enough, 3 regular, possessed Mokujin sprouted from the smashed remains of the defeated, possessed elder Mokujin. "Oh, for the love of ramen," Naruto grumbled. Ludicrously high defense, high strength and the ability to spawn lesser versions of itself once defeated? Smash them. He ordered his clones, which they had done with gusto. Now that they knew how to defeat them, even multiple, possessed Mokujin were not match for Naruto and his clones. In short order, the 3 wooden monsters were kindling. Possessed elder Mokujin, defeated, you gain 1200 express. Possessed Mokujin, x3 defeated, you gain 300 express. All chakra saturation in sub-area 1 cleared, you gain 500 express. You have gained a level, LV7 LV8, you have 5 attribute points to spend. Secondary Earth Affinity has leveled up, LV4 LV5. Doden Dongan no Jutsu has leveled up, LV3 LV4. Doden Iwa Bunshin no Jutsu has leveled up, LV4 LV5. Sweet, he commented, that one big Mokujin netted him as much express as Mogora Wagora had. The corpses of the 3 possessed Mokujin dissolved to reveal 3 more high-quality Bakken, and about 1,000 Ryo altogether. The possessed elder Mokujin dissolved to show a single Bakken, but not a regular one. It glowed with a golden light. Golden Bakken of Fortune, training weapon, a wooden sword carved from a Shinboku, sacred tree, and blessed by a priest. Its divine aura repels lesser demons and brings good fortune to the one who wields it. Reduces random encounters from lesser demonic or lesser yokai enemies by 100%. Increases luck by 25. Durability 35/35 bludgeoning damage. STR plus 1/5. Huh, guess that's a useful thing to have, Naruto commented as he put it away. As he warped back to sub-area 1, he debated about whether to go on to sub-area 2. He decided against it as he was hungry, and he was low on chakra. That's that for today then, he muttered and headed out of the training ground. Chapter 10, Blades and Shadows. 1 month later, Higurashi's weapon shop. Whoa, Naruto said in awe. He was looking at the pair of tanto lying on the counter of the shop. The blades shone brightly in the light reflected from the illumination provided by the lamps. The blades were simple, but the distinctive ripple along the edge, the hamon, spoke of blades produced by a master smith. The blades had obviously had a horomonoshi at them, as one had a flower pattern engraved that looked like camellias and the other had patterns that looked like violets. I see you noticed the engravings. Higurashi Tatsuhiko observed with a smile. That's Kanae's work. She's really good at that sort of fine detail work. Ordinarily, we would let you name them and then engrave a horomono to match it, but with these, we named them for you. This one is Tsubaki and this one is Sumaire. In Hankutoba, Sumaire means honesty and Tsubaki, when they're red, means perishing with grace. Cool, Naruto said. He meant it. The hilts of the blades were wrapped in colored tsukamaki bearing their respective colors, while the small tsuba had more fine engraving work on them. Now Naruto-kun, are you sure that you want to give us most of the remaining chakra? He asked with a look of concern. Before Naruto could answer, a box popped up. Karmic choice. This question will determine the end result of your relationship with the Higurashi family. Choose carefully, because words once spoken cannot be taken back. Choice 1. Righteous. Sure. It's yours. Immediate advancement to honored reputation with Higurashi weapons and apparels, Higurashi Kanae, and Higurashi Tatsuhiko, advancement to well-liked reputation with Higurashi Tenten. Choice 2. Pragmatic, on second thought. No, I might need it. -50 relationship with all Higurashi family members. Receive all remaining chakra metal. The choice, for Naruto, was obvious. Sure thing. Naruto said with a nod, you might need it for something for the village. Righteous, choice made. +10 to righteous, alignment. Title. Righteous Acolyte, obtained. Guide, updated, titles, and alignment, added. Received Tanto, Sumaire, received Tanto, Tsubaki. That's very good of you, Naruto-kun. Tatsuhiko boomed with a smile. I can't thank you enough. Take these as a token of gratitude. Reaching under the counter, the blacksmith pulled out a set of black fingerless gloves with metal over the back of the hand. The emblem of the hidden leaf was engraved on the metal and it shone as if it had just been freshly polished. Which was actually very likely. Wow, thanks, the blonde boy said in awe. Ha ha. No problem. The man grinned. Now, in addition to the blades, I can give you a set of sheaths for them. How do you want to carry them? At the small of my back. Naruto replied, miming drawing the blades from that location. I see. Tatsuhiko nodded seriously. I think I have what you're looking for over here. He walked over, grabbed a set of sheaths for a nearby rack, and brought them back to show the boy. They were plain black and had built-in sharpening stones. What was special about them was that they were designed to be able to be crossed over one another and secured tightly. These will serve you well, Tatsuhiko said as he carefully sheathed each blade into each sheath. I'll give you a care package as well. Whetstones, cloths and a manual on how to sharpen your blades. Saying so, he placed all of the above-mentioned items, plus the Tanto, into a storage scroll and handed it to Naruto. Remember, you aren't allowed to carry weapons openly until you become a genin, the man cautioned Naruto sternly. Hi. Naruto accepted the scroll carefully and put it into his pocket. Wanted to ask you something about your kodachi, Tatsuhiko said gruffly. Now, I can do a standard design, or I can alter it somewhat. Alter it how? Naruto asked. For example, adding an edge on the flat of the blade, about 5 inches long near the tip. The blacksmith replied, drawing a display kodachi and gesturing at where he meant. Not many blades are double-edged, especially not kodachi, so it'll be a nasty surprise for anyone you cross blades with. I could also make the hilt extra long and add a keikan into it for emergencies. Hidden arrays to store weapons. There's a lot of things I could do if you want me to. As for payment, the chakra metal you've given my family means that the sky's the limit. The blonde boy was stumped as he thought about it. He really had no idea about what he wanted for his blade. Being given basically a free hand to customize it with no limit on his finances was such a novelty that he had not expected it. Can I leave it up to you to decide? Naruto asked. I really have no idea what to choose. Tatsuhiko nodded understandingly. That's fine. I have the metal heating up in the back right now, so I'll get started on it right away. Is there anything else you want to buy before I get started? 3 standard sets of shuriken. Naruto replied, I ran out the other day. Still clearing out training ground 13, eh? Tatsuhiko asked as he grabbed the requested items. How far are you in? Still just the first 2 sub-areas. Naruto scowled. I go away for 2 days and the chakra mutations reappear. It's gotten to the point that it's ridiculous. But I didn't want to try my luck further in until I had some proper weapons." He patted the scroll meaningfully and the blacksmith nodded approvingly. "Always know when you might be in over your head. A good trait for a shinobi to have," he said. "As for the resurgence of the chakra mutations, it's because the chakra saturation seeps back into the area from the rest after a short while if cleared. You're going to have to kill all of the chakra mutations in all of the areas before the saturation will be removed completely." "Something to work towards," Naruto said with a shrug as he pulled on his new gloves. "These look kick-ass. Thanks, Tatsuoji-san." "No problem," he chuckled. "Now I'd better get back to my forge. I'll let Ten-chan know you were here. She's going to be thrilled about the chakra metal. I'm going to make her a katana out of some of it." "Glad to help." Naruto grinned. "See y'all later." As the blonde boy trotted off, Tatsuhiko chuckled. He really was just like his mother. Heading to his forge, he watched as Kanae worked the bellows. "I take it he liked the tanto?" she said without missing a beat. "Yep. He even reaffirmed that we can keep the excess chakra metal." Tatsuhiko replied. "He also left exactly what to do with his kodachi up to me." The poor boy looked stunned at the idea that I would let him tell me what to do with his sword. "This village has a lot to answer for." Kanae grunted as she fanned the flame higher. "So what are you gonna do? Remember the plans I've been refining for Ten-chan's sword?" he asked. "I was thinking about using Naruto-kun's weapon as a beta test for it." "Is that wise?" his wife asked as she paused to check the forge, or ethical. "Nothing will go wrong," Tatsuhiko assured her. "I've worked things out so all the additions and modifications come together smoothly. I've already done an alpha test with regular weapon-grade Tamahagane and, aside from some minor issues that I've fixed, it turned out pretty damn good." "Yes, but that was a katana, not a kodachi," Kanae pointed out reasonably. "A few calculations and minor adjustments and it'll be fine," Tatsuhiko said firmly. "A kodachi is pretty much the same as a katana. Aside from being slightly smaller, it won't be hard to adjust for that." "If you are certain," Kanae sighed, "you start hammering the metal out, and I'll have a look over your plans." "Yes dear," Tatsuhiko said, "they're in my planning office." Later Naruto's apartment. Naruto used observe on his new equipment as soon as he finished his lunch. Konoha battle gloves, black, high-quality gloves used by Chunin rank shinobi and higher in Konohagakure. Offering protection for the knuckles in taijutsu and PR of the hand to block weapons. They are emblazoned with the leaf of Konohagakure. Def plus 15 durability. 50-50, Sumayer. A tanto crafted by master blacksmith Higurashi Tatsuhiko. The blade has been engraved by a horomonoshi with violets. Made of chakra metal, which is stronger than steel and is able to channel chakra through it naturally, it is a very good weapon. LV-15 short weapon, mastercrafted, chakra weapon durability, 95/95. Piercing damage. S+10 slashing damage. S+25 bludgeoning damage, S+1. Tsubaki. A tanto crafted by master blacksmith Higurashi. The blade has been engraved by a horomonoshi with camellias. Made of chakra metal, which is stronger than steel and is able to channel chakra through it naturally, it is a very good weapon. LV-15 short weapon, mastercrafted, chakra weapon durability, 95/95. Piercing damage. S+10 slashing damage. S+25 bludgeoning damage, S+1. Nice, Naruto whistled. Wonder what being mastercrafted does to the blades. When he tapped the word, another screen popped up. Mastercrafted. Items that have been mastercrafted have been carved, forged, built or otherwise created by a master craftsman at the peak of their skill. As such, all mastercrafted items receive a bonus towards a random stat. Do you wish to have all such bonuses shown? Y, N, obviously. Naruto muttered. He hit Y and looked at Sumayer and Tsubaki's screens again. Tsubaki received a +10 bonus to piercing damage, while Sumayer got +15 to slashing damage. Naruto felt a bit giddy. These weapons would make his life so much easier when it came to clearing out Training Ground 13. Now then, where am I at? He muttered and checked his status. Name: Uzumaki Naruto class. The gamer level, 12 next level, 30.84%. Title: Academy Student, plus 25% Express to LV10, Age, 12. HP, 1500 CP, 1500 STR, 39 STA, 44, plus 10. Dex, 30 INT, 30 WIS, 34 LUK. His stats were, pardon the lack of modesty, pretty damn good in his opinion. He had finally gotten rid of the malnourished status, which had added the missing 5 points to all his physical stats. He had also raised his int and whiz by quite a bit, which was nice. His weights were on level 2 now as he had adjusted after the last month and they were no longer a burden at level 1. As for his skills, he had trained hard and all of his self-taught styles were at level 10, at which point they had hit was his ability classed as a level cap, meaning they couldn't go any higher. The same had applied to his basic Hokage Taijutsu, but he had solved that problem by absorbing the intermediate Hokage Taijutsu book. The self-taught styles were more problematic. Sure, the Bojutsu wasn't as important, but the Nito Ryu Tanto style and the Kodachi Kenjutsu style were. Ruka Sensei had said he would have a look in the shinobi section of the library, but that still meant he couldn't improve them yet. And graduation was 6 whole months away. On a more positive side of things, thanks to the drops made by the Mokujin in Sub-Area 1 and the Namenju in Sub-Area 2, he had a healthy stock of Bakken, practice dummies and practice spears. A big downer was that, once he had passed level 10, he no longer received the 25% extra express that his Academy Student title had granted him, which made leveling up somewhat tedious. Come to think of it, didn't I get a new title earlier on? Naruto thought with a frown. He opened the title section and winced, as it was row upon row of question marks. Scrolling down, the boy spotted 2 titles that he had access to. Academy Student, grants 25% extra express while under LV10. Signifies the bearer is a student at a shinobi academy. Only removable at graduation. Righteous Acolyte, increases ninjutsu power by 1% while possessing more than 0, but less than 100, righteous alignment. Signifies that the bearer has taken the first step down a righteous path. This sucks ass, Naruto pouted. He then decided to find out what this alignment business was all about by checking the guide. Alignment and you. Alignment is your moral and ethical perspective. Basically, if you act in a moral fashion, you can be considered lawful or good, whereas if you act in an amoral fashion, you can be considered unlawful or evil. Your words and actions influence which alignment you go down. Unlike in other worlds, you, Uzumaki Naruto, reside in a world where nothing is cut and dried. Morality is very much in flux, especially for shinobi. To represent this, there are various different paths of alignment that you can go down simultaneously. Very few paths exclude the ability to travel down others until very far down a path, but there are those that preclude another path immediately. The various alignment paths you discover will be added here as and when you find them, not before. Righteous. This path has also been known as paragon, lawful good and various other epithets of a similar nature. One who strides down this path is one who will try to do what is right, regardless of the cost to themselves. Current alignment. 10/1000ths. Pragmatic. Known as neutral or unaligned in various universes. One who follows this path follows an expedient path. They will act in the most grounded fashion possible, saving only those who they feel can be saved and not trying for more. Current alignment. 0/1000ths. Huh, Naruto said with a shrug. He personally didn't think he suited either of those stances completely. He also felt mildly offended that his ability was trying to compartmentalize him. Moving on, new skill. Naruto grinned as he closed the window and grabbed the book regarding weapons care and maintenance. You have acquired the to the point and along the edge skill book. Do you wish to learn this? Why, hell yes, Naruto grinned as he hit the appropriate button and watched the book dissolve into blue light and enter him. Edged Weapon Maintenance, LV1, 00.00, having a sword or dagger is all very fine and dandy, but if it's blunt as a stick, you'd be better off with a club. This skill allows you to oil, sharpen and otherwise maintain any edged weapon, from a kaken to the head of a spear. It also grants a buff to any weapon you treat with this skill. Sharpens a weapon for 2 days. grants +5 to piercing and slashing attacks for the duration of the sharpening. Restores 5 durability for each sharpening, oiling, and maintenance action carried out on edged weapons. Requires weapon maintenance materials to use. Kick-ass, Naruto declared. If this skill was this good at level 1, he couldn't wait to see what the higher levels were like. Heading down to the training room, Naruto pulled a practice dummy out of his inventory. It was one of the common drops he received for killing Nemenju, the human-faced trees, and their weaker spawns, Ninminka, the human-faced fruit. The dummies were basic wooden human shapes and were actually meant for taijutsu practice, but as Naruto had 50 of the things in his inventory, he could spare one for training how to infuse his blades with chakra. Drawing his weapons from their sheaths, Naruto closed his eyes and focused. He tried to guide his chakra into the blades, but was stymied by an uncomfortable feeling. Frowning, he tried again, this time being a bit more forceful, thrusting the chakra into the tanto he held. "You're doing it wrong," a voice said from behind him. Naruto jumped and whirled around. A bearded man in a standard Jonin's outfit and a sash with the kanji for fire around his waist stood leaning against the doorframe. The smoking guardian, LV. Sarutobi Asuma. Asen. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, keeping up the facade that he didn't know who the man was. "The name's Sarutobi Asuma, kid," the bearded man said. "My old man sent me over here today to teach you how to use those blades properly." "You're Gigi's son?" Naruto asked. "You do look a lot alike." That made Asuma guffaw loudly. "Ha, does he know you call him Gigi?" "Yup. He seems to find it refreshing," Naruto replied with a grin. "I'll bet." The Jonin grinned back. "Oyaji told me that he is futon, right? That's my primary affinity as well, and I use the same jutsu you were trying there with my trench knives." He took an odd-looking knife from his rear shuriken pouch and held it up. Seen from the side, it resembled a fang, with holes for the fingers, and the wickedly sharp blade was made more dangerous by the serrated section just in front of the finger holes. Naruto was curious and used observe on it. Trench knife. A master-crafted blade forged by Higurashi Tatsuhiko in his youth. This blade has seen wear, tear and blood through the years and has never failed its wielder. Used in a pair. Durability. 150/150ths knuckle duster, short weapon, master-crafted, chakra metal weapon, paired weapon. Piercing damage. S+10 slashing damage. S+15 bludgeoning damage. S+15. That looks dangerous, the blonde boy observed. "It can be," Asuma agreed. "Watch what happens now." Suddenly, a blue aura enveloped the blade and Naruto's hearing could pick up a faint noise, a mild shrieking sound. That's the sound of two opposing chakra currents grinding together, sharpening each other to form the blade. Asuma explained. He stepped over to the practice dummy and slashed it diagonally with his trench knife, the top half sliding off the lower half a few seconds later. "Whoa!" Naruto exclaimed with shock. "Wind is known as the war element," Asuma said as he released the jutsu. "In my opinion, it is the best mix of offense and defense at short to mid-range, especially when you use the chakra nagashi no jutsu, chakra flow jutsu, in a bladed weapon. What was your secondary element?" "Earth." "Ah. Well, from what I've gathered, using chakra nagashi with Doden chakra ups the durability and hardness of the weapon to ridiculous levels." Asuma nodded. "One guy the first saw used it to smash his opponent's weapon into smithereens with one blow." Again, "Whoa," Naruto said with wide eyes. "Yeah, it's pretty cool," Asuma said modestly. "Now try to do as I described with your tanto. Imagine in your mind two streams of chakra colliding with each other, sharpening themselves into one single blade that covers the entirety of your blades, but not the hilts." Nodding, Naruto closed his eyes and focused on what Asuma had told him. He imagined his chakra reaching down, 2 channels per weapon, wrapping around the blades of the tanto and clashing into each other, forming a blade along the edge of the weapons. "You've got it," Asuma said proudly. Naruto opened his eyes and saw that both tanto were covered in the blue chakra of the chakra nagashi no jutsu. He swiped them at the remains of the dummy, cleaving it into 3 pieces. "Damn, this is lethal," he said in disbelief. Naruto ignored the numerous screens that had popped up around him, saving them until he was alone. "Yep," So not using it unless you're out on a mission outside the village, Asuma said sternly. Naruto nodded as he ended the jutsu, returning his tanto to normal blades. Mind if I have a look at your weapons? Asuma asked. Sure. Naruto nodded. He flipped the weapons around so that the hilts were facing the Jonin and offered them to him. Asuma took them carefully and examined them with an experienced eye. Looks like old Tatsuhiko outdid himself with these beauties. The bearded man observed. They're almost as good as my trench knives. Tatsuhiko works best when he's creating unique weapons, but even these are top quality. Carefully, he slid the blades back into their sheaths and handed them back to Naruto. Thanks. Naruto said. Why'd you teach me? Active duty shinobi aren't allowed to teach academy students. This made Asuma smirk slightly. But there's the thing. I am a former member of the 12 Guardian Ninja, a group of shinobi who are the shinobi guard of the Fire Daimyo. I finished my tour of duty with them last week and arrived here 2 days ago. Oyaji gave me a month off before I had to officially return to active duty, and as I need an apartment, he suggested seeing the landlord of the Amikage Apartments, one Uzumaki Naruto. Sound familiar? It certainly did. The official story was that the Hokage had purchased this building and had assigned one of the apartments to Naruto. What was actually the truth was that Naruto was a part owner of the building, and the Hokage was the other. Sarutobi handled the paperwork, while Naruto was the on-site landlord. Okay. Do you want an apartment here, Asuma-sensei? Naruto asked. And if so, is there anything you look for in an apartment? I would like a place with a view of the Hokage monument, if at all possible, Asuma replied. Got just the place for you. Naruto smirked. Follow me. Resealing his tanto into the scroll and pocketing it, Naruto led the younger Sarutobi to a room on the opposite side of the building and one floor down from Naruto's own apartment. It was just as big as Naruto's own apartment and had a very good view of the Hokage monument. Nice, Asuma said with an appreciative look around the room, which was clean as a whistle. I was expecting the place to look messy and dusty, but it isn't. I can use the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, so I have them cleaning the place while I'm away at the academy, Naruto explained. Doing so had helped to raise the level of his shadow clones by quite a bit. The Iwa Bunshin, not so much, as they crumbled to pieces if Naruto moved more than a block away from them. Still useful when he was closer than that though. He had also developed the skill, housework, because of it. Combining the experience of all his clones had raised him to level 2, on the second day. His current level with housework was level 10, and it showed no signs of slowing down either. Good tactic. Asuma said approvingly. Well, now we need to talk money. Most places charge monthly rent, as I'm sure you know. Naruto nodded glumly. He had paid over 2,000 ryo a month for his former shitty apartment, when the place had only been worth less than half of that. Considering how this place is in pretty good nick considering it was left alone for so long, how does 2,000 a month sound? Asuma asked. That's as much as I paid my old landlord, Naruto exclaimed. For that place? Asuma sounded slightly incredulous. Pops told me about it. You shouldn't have paid more than 1,200 ryo a month. Meh. I'm used to it. Naruto shrugged indifferently. Anyway, 2,000 ryo sounds good. Shake on it. The two shook hands and sealed the deal. I'm having dinner with the Sarutobi clan tonight. My official, welcome back, party. Asuma informed Naruto. I'll have my brother, Asahi, draw up a rental agreement afterwards and bring it with me so we can sign it tomorrow. The Jonin looked around the empty room again. By the way, what happened to the furniture? It was either taken when the entrance to Anbu HQ was moved or left to rot. Naruto grimaced at the memories his clones had given him of the furniture that had been left. I've had to throw them all out. I would go furniture shopping to replace them, but the likelihood that anyone would be willing to sell me anything isn't high. Asuma frowned at that. You aren't required to provide furniture for a tenant, Naruto. He informed the blonde. All that's required is that the water and power be working properly and that the apartment is in good condition. Gigi told me the water works in all apartments and the power works. All I had to do is go down to the basement and turn it on. Naruto supplied. When'll you want to move in? I'm staying at the Sarutobi compound at the moment, but I'll have to move out in 3 days. Asuma replied, that okay with you? Sure. I'll turn the power and water on the day before and get everything sorted. Naruto nodded. Okay then. See you later, Yanushi-san. Asuma nodded politely at Naruto before departing. As Naruto walked back to his apartment, he mused at how odd it felt to be called a landlord. He immediately resolved not to be a pain in the ass like his old landlord. Sitting down, he examined the windows that had popped up in order of appearance. Skill Kref repeated specific actions. The skill, Lesser Chakra Control, has been created. Lesser Chakra Control, passive, LV1, 0000 XP. Chakra Control allows the user to control their chakra. Although some jutsu can be used with barely any chakra control, most average jutsu and other chakra tricks will require at least this level of skill. Allows the use of D-rank jutsu and chakra techniques. Gains express from chakra control exercises. Reduces the cost of jutsu by 1%. Increases chakra point regeneration by 1%. Finally, Naruto yelled in delight. Do you wish to apply unused chakra control exercise express from tree climbing exercise to lesser chakra control? Duh. Naruto snorted as he hit the Y button. Calculating, done. Lesser chakra control has risen to LV3. Naruto mentally calculated that his tree climbing exercise skill was level 10. Shouldn't that yield a higher level up? Shrugging, he moved on to the next notice. Skill created. As a result of a specific action, the skill, Chakra Nagashi no Jutsu, has been created. Chakra Nagashi no Jutsu. Active, level 1, 0000 XP. The Chakra Flow Jutsu is the ability to coat a weapon with chakra and bestowing some sort of special effect to it via the elemental affinity that the chakra possesses. Physical contact with the target weapon is required in order to use this jutsu. Wind chakra can turn any blade into a lethally sharp weapon. Earth chakra increases the density and hardness of the weapon. Fire chakra surrounds the weapon in a burning aura, incinerating all it touches. Lightning chakra acts similarly to wind chakra, with the added effect of numbness, although both effects are due to causing intense vibrations in the weapon. Water chakra extends the length of the weapon and adds a cutting effect only slightly inferior to wind chakra. In addition, neutral chakra merely forms a protective cover over the weapon, reducing any harm to the weapon. Hand signs. None. Wielder chakra types usable. Wind, earth, neutral. Futon chakra Nagashi. Usable on edged weapons only. Creates a blade over the weapon that adds a plus 20 increase to slashing and piercing damage. Grants plus 10 durability for duration of activation. Costs 25 carbon monophosphide per minute to use. Doden chakra Nagashi. Usable on any weapon. Grants an increase of plus 20 to the weapon's bludgeoning and piercing damage. Piercing damage only added if an edged weapon. Increases the weapon's durability by plus 15. Grants plus 20 def to the weapon. Costs 28 carbon monophosphide per minute to use. Neutral chakra Nagashi. Usable on any weapon. Grants an increase of plus 10 to the weapon's bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage, applied depending on the weapon. Grants plus 5 def to the weapon. Costs 30 carbon monophosphide per minute to use. Naruto had to raise his eyebrows at that. The differences between the various CP costs of the 3 chakra Nagashi were fairly obvious. He had the greatest affinity for wind chakra, so the cost was the least, with earth chakra second because he had worked hard at it. Neutral chakra couldn't be worked on, so it had what he assumed was the basic cost. Still, the effects of all 3 were useful. He would have to think about something to use for the Doden chakra Nagashi. A collapsible baton made of chakra metal, maybe? Shaking his head, he looked at the other windows. Quest alert. A man's home is his castle. Sarutobi Asuma, the son of your surrogate grandfather, and former member of the 12 Guardian Shinobi, is going to rent an apartment from you in the Amikage apartment building. Prepare the room, get the water and power on and sign all the necessary documents before he arrives in 3 days. Quest reward. Plus 1000 XP, plus 2000 Ryo, Sarutobi Asuma as a tenant. Random futon ninjutsu scroll. Quest failure. Sarutobi Asuma as a tenant, accept? Hitting the Y button. Naruto catalogued everything that had to be done and in what order. Most of the preliminary stuff had already been filed by his Gigi, so all he had to do was inform the water and power companies that he would be ramping up the consumption of their respective resource. Making 2 shadow clones, he sent one to each company before he made another couple to go over the Asuma's chosen apartment with a fine-tooth comb and make repairs as and when required. Settling down again, he realized that Sakura was going to be over soon for her taijutsu practice. This was the Pinkette girl's least favorite thing to do, but she did keep her word, so she came nevertheless. One thing that had changed was that Sakura's tutoring sessions had ceased adding anything to his int or wis except at very long intervals. Checking the mission in the quest log, he discovered that it had updated itself, saying that he now required 15 tutoring sessions with Sakura in order to get +1 wis and +1 int, although the amount needed to improve his relationship had decreased from 5 sessions to 3. Naruto guessed that the amount that his int and wis had risen by had prompted whatever being that governed his gamer ability to balance it out. The higher your stats are, the harder it is to improve them. Sakura, on the other hand, was finding it hard going with regard to her training. She was getting training from the academy, training from Naruto and training from her father. She was very much exhausted. He had been sneaking looks at her stats and she had only gained a single point in STR and STA in the last month and a few days, which was slightly worrying for his growing a cherry blossom quest. When Sakura arrived, he asked her exactly what exercises she did other than sparring. Calisthenics, Sakura replied, you know, sit-ups, push-ups, star jumps, that sort of thing. You should try jogging. Naruto suggested, shinobi do a lot of that, so it would be useful to get into the swing of things. His pink-haired training partner sighed at that, but was unable to refute it. Over the next couple of hours, Naruto helped Sakura alter the Hokage style she had been taught so it suited her body. Stances and kata had to be changed and then Sakura had to experiment with the various punches, kick, blocks and the like so she could use them effectively. After all of that, she would spar with Naruto, who didn't pull any punches in regards to his speed. He was way faster than Ino was, if not quite as acrobatic, so if Sakura got used to his level of speed, she'd be able to deal with Ino more easily. Or so he hoped anyway. Damn. Sakura said mildly as she got up again after being knocked back onto her butt again, I'm not getting any better at this. Considering you've only been at this for just over a month, you're doing very well, Naruto assured her. Why haven't you ever won any spars if you're this good at taijutsu? Sakura asked with a frown. Because almost every single time, I've been up against Sasuke. Naruto replied, he's a teme, but he is very good at hand-to-hand combat. Just about the only thing he's better at is ninjutsu. How can you tell? Sakura asked in confusion. See how he wears his clan symbol on his back? Naruto asked. According to Haruka-sensei, only adult Uchiha are allowed to wear their clan symbol on their back like that, meaning they have to be able to use Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu, Fire Style, Grand Fireball Jutsu. Sasuke-kun can use a C-rank elemental jutsu? The Pinkette yelped in shock. From what I can remember, he started wearing it just before the Uchiha massacre. Naruto continued, so that means he's been able to use it for 6 years or thereabouts. He used it at 6? Sakura gawked. He has talent. Shamitachi screwed his head up. Naruto said with a shrug. That's a bit cold, Naruto. Sakura said with a frown, he had his entire clan massacred by his own brother. Anyone would be screwed in the head after that. I know. Naruto sighed. He really didn't want to talk about the teme. It's just, other people have had difficult lives as well, you know? And they haven't cut themselves off from all human contact. Sakura nodded slowly. I get your meaning, but cut him. Because it's you asking, I'll try. Naruto sighed. Now, have you thought about your genin outfit? Not really, Sakura replied, isn't what I have good enough? For D ranks, yeah. Naruto said, but for C ranks, where you'll be facing enemy combatants, albeit just bandits. Not so much. No armor, no weapons other than kunai and shuriken, yeah. Let's just say not good and leave it like that. Sakura winced. I'll talk to my dad about it. Cool. Oh, I have to give you something. Naruto said, wait here. He trotted out and up to his apartment so he could access his inventory and pull out the chakra strength enhancement scroll he'd gotten from that spar with Sasuke before heading back. He'd tried to learn it before, but it required average chakra control, level 20, so he was out of luck. Sakura though, here you go, he said as he entered the dojo, a reward for your hard work. This is, a jutsu scroll? Sakura asked as she gingerly accepted it. Yup. For Ninpo. Chakra Kyoto Kyoka no Jutsu, ninja art. Chakra strength enhancement jutsu. Naruto replied. My chakra control's too shaky to use it, but you? I think it'll work out. Sakura was speed reading the scroll. This is what incredible, she exclaimed, where'd you get it from? I found it, in a training field I'm working at. Naruto replied, mixing truth and lies. It's been abandoned for a while and Hokage Gigi told me anything I found that didn't have someone's name burned or signed onto it was mine to keep. Wow, well, thank you, Naruto. Sakura said, still reading the scroll avidly, this is, wow. It isn't Tsunade of the Sanin's chakra enhanced strength, but it is a step up from regular muscle power, that's for sure. Naruto nodded. The chakra Kyoto Kyoka no Jutsu was a heavily watered-down version of the Shodem Hokage's Kongoriki no Jutsu, adamantine power jutsu. One that every shinobi with sufficient chakra control could learn, unlike the parent jutsu. When he discovered that he couldn't learn the jutsu, he had read it physically. Don't use it instead of your muscles in training, he cautioned her. Hi, Sakura said wearily, putting the scroll into her pouch. Are we done for today, Naruto? I'm still tired from earlier. Sure thing, Sakura-chan. Naruto nodded, see you tomorrow. The Pinkette bade him farewell and headed for home. Naruto looked at the scroll over by the remains of the dummy and grinned. Tomorrow, after the academy, he would go and kick ass in sub-area 3 of Training Ground 13 and break in his new weapons. He couldn't wait. Elsewhere in a room barely lit by stuttering candlelight, a masked individual, clothed so that their gender was undeterminable, knelt before a desk covered in papers. Behind that desk sat a man clad in a black and white kimono, with one arm and one eye bound in bandages. Report, Agent number 35. The bandaged man ordered, his voice inflectionless. The Jinchuriki has been progressing well. The kneeling man replied tonelessly, each time he faces Uchiha Sasuke, he draws closer to achieving victory over him. He trains with Haruno Sakura 3 times a week and is otherwise spotted heading towards Training Area 13. The bandaged man gave no indication that he was either pleased or displeased by this information. I see. Have we acquired any leverage on the Anbu who guard the former HQ entrance? Negative. Agent 35 replied, they are part of the current Hokage guard section of the Anbu and their identities are classified beyond the ability of any of our agents to acquire. This time a distinct look of displeasure flashed across the bandaged man's face. Anything else to report? Sarutobi Asuma has returned from his tour of duty with the 12 Guardian Ninja. The kneeling agent stated, he is currently residing in the Sarutobi compound, but plans to move into the Amikage apartments within the next 3 days. A scowl crossed the bandaged man's face. Curse that old monkey, he hissed. Arrange for an accident to occur to Sarutobi Asuma tomorrow. Nothing fatal, but it has to put him out of commission for at least a week. Prep Squad 1 for an abduction mission in Training Ground 13 in 2 days' time. Hi, Danzo-sama, the agent said before fading out into the encroaching darkness. Shimura Danzo, the Yami no Shinobi, allowed himself a small grin before turning his attention back to his paperwork. The weapon was as good as his. Chapter 11. The Root of the Problem. The next day, early morning Hidden Root Base Shimura Danzo walked down the corridor of his base, the cane he held in one hand thumping against the white stone floor as he did so. The crippled old man had calmed down since his outburst the previous day and had since rethought his plan. He would need to delay Sarutobi Asuma's move into the Amikage apartments, so the little accident section of his hastily formed plan was unchanged. The part that needed alteration was his ill-conceived attempt to snatch the Jinchuriki from Training Ground 13. Sarutobi was many things. Soft on foreigners, soft on the domestic front, sentimental and weak about a great deal of things, but one thing he was not was stupid. Doubtless he had Anbu watching not only the weapon's home, but the weapon himself. If the old monkey caught wind of his Nei operatives lurking around the Jinchuriki that he was coddling, Danzo would be up to his armpits in Anbu before he could say, knife, 3 times fast. So then, the obvious thing to do would be to use Nuke Nin, Missing Ninja, to test the brat first. That had been his first thought, but he had shot it down. Let foreign S into Konoha? It was bad enough during the Chunin exams, but honorless S like Missing Ninja, inside his home? No. So then, he would manufacture some Missing Ninja. Fortunately, Nei had a large store of foreign ninja apparel and weaponry that they had acquired in the many years it had been active, both officially and unofficially. Just to be certain, he was having the squad he had chosen modified with the Ninpo, Karata no Chokoku, ninja art, body sculpting, technique, so their faces, at the very least, would look vastly different. That, combined with the different clothing, weapons and hite aid that he was going to provide them, would mask the origins of his men. The operation had several possible objectives. The first would, obviously, be to kidnap the Jinchuriki and flee from Konoha, depositing the weapon in one of the hidden tunnels outside Konoha that led to the main base of Nei. If that proved impossible, then a true evaluation of the Jinchuriki's fighting abilities would be their goal. In a fight for his life, or so he would believe, the boy would go all out in a panic. That wouldn't prove hard to handle, considering all of the team he was sending to capture the boy were all at least high Chunin level and the boy was, chakra aside, only a high genin at absolute best. A side objective would be forcing the boy's Anbu watchdogs to break cover, which would give his men a chance to discover clues as to their identities and cause a break in the boy's faith in the old monkey at finding out he was constantly under the aegis of the Anbu. Win-win-win, as far as Danzo was concerned. At length, he entered the medical lab where the team was undergoing their body modifications. The 4 ninja were being attended to by several Nei-med nin. None were on the level of Tsunade of the Sanin, but many hands make light work regardless. Operative number 34, report. Danzo commanded. Agents number 543, 647, 753 and 412 will be fully modified by midday. Danzo-sama. The head med nin replied in a monotone. Agents were the low-ranking field ninja of Nei, while operatives were the senior wing. Very similar to the Chunin-Jonin divide. And how long until they are back to full usability? Danzo demanded. It is estimated at being between 6 and 7 hours post-surgery, number 34 replied. Danzo nodded. Very well. Inform me immediately upon the recovery of these 4. I will give them their instructions personally. Hi, Danzo-sama. Later Sakura's home. Haruno Sakura grunted in mild pain as her father easily threw her over his shoulder and onto the ground of the small training area that he had in the basement of their house. She hadn't known it was here until her father had decided to improve her taijutsu. What had made it worse was Naruto was doing exactly the same when she visited him. Her body had never ached more than in the last month or so. Mind in the game, Sakura-chan. Kazashi scolded her. Sorry, Oto-san. She apologized, it's just that between you and Naruto training me 5 days a week, I'm a bit tired. You'll get used to it. Her father informed her briskly, as long as you don't overdo it. You should notice that your endurance will increase gradually. Up you get now. Fine. Sakura moaned as she staggered to her feet. By the way, Naruto recommended that I get a better outfit for when I graduate. Sensible, was all Kazashi would say. Oto-san, what exactly is wrong with my outfit? Sakura gestured at her battle dress. Nothing's wrong, per se. Kazashi corrected, it's merely that it's too bright and not armored. In a C-rank mission, you would be all but defenseless and have to rely on the Kawarimi no Jutsu, natural speed and agility and pure luck to avoid enemy attacks. Not to mention it would be hard to blend in with the red color. But these are the colors of the Haruno clan, Sakura protested. You should wear a clan patch on your clothes to declare your clan affiliation, but you should choose a more subdued color scheme for combat missions. Her father advised her, preferably with some armor covering your vital locations, if not your limbs as well. The pinkette winced at the thought of having her arms or legs targeted by enemy ninja and resolved to get arm guards and leg guards. Your mother said that Naruto-san was wearing new clothes. Kazashi mused. Do you happen to know where he got them? He said from a place called Higarashi's. Sakura replied, Choji said it was a high-end place. They make the best damn ninja gear in Konoha is more like it. The pink-haired man snorted. The stuff for Genin is very reasonably priced given how high quality it is. We'll go there a couple of days before your graduation and buy you a combat outfit. You can wear your usual outfit for D ranks. Now, how are you coming along with that jutsu Naruto-san gave you? Sakura beamed. It's such an easy jutsu to use, I don't get why Naruto can't use it himself. Demonstrating, she walked over to a sparring post and smashed her fist into it, leaving a sizable dent that was shockingly out of proportion to what her skinny arms should have been capable of. You do realize that most people wait until they're chunin before they learn that jutsu? Her father deadpanned. Sakura looked shocked. The chakra control requirement to use this technique usually takes quite a lot of time to perfect. He noted blandly, yet to you, it's easy. Little cherry blossom of mine, I think I should invest in a genjutsu scroll of mine for you. Odo-san, please don't call me that if we're in public, his daughter whined. Later with Naruto, the blonde boy looked at the screen in front of him as he sat down at his table. Level requirements. Some weapons, armor and other items have minimum requirements before you can use them in combat. This might be as simple as a minimum level to reach before they can be used, while others can vary between various stat requirements, completed quests, or a certain monster needs to be slain, or even a mixture of all of the above. While training with weapons, all requirements are ignored. What a freaking pain. Naruto grumbled. He was only level 12, Tsubaki and Sumire required level 15 in order to wield them. There went his big plan to cut a swath through sub-area 3 of Training Ground 13. There again, it's only 3 levels, so maybe he could power level somehow? Shaking his head, the Uzumaki decided to leave it be for the moment. Everything was prepared for when Asuma moved in. The utility companies had reluctantly acknowledged the soon-to-be increase in power and water his place was about to have, and his clones, after some trial and error, had turned on the electricity and water for Asuma's chosen apartment. Right now, the taps were all on, allowing any buildup of contaminants and rust to be vomited out and removed from the pipes. His clones had also been busy dusting and cleaning the entire apartment until it looked spotless. If nothing else, it would look good when Asuma arrived. All that was left to clean were the sinks and the bath, shower once they stopped vomiting up rust and dirt. Calligraphy practice then. He shrugged and made some more kage bunshin. After getting his calligraphy stuff out, he joined his clones in working at it. What with all of the physical training he'd been doing in the last month, calligraphy had kinda fallen to the wayside, but he was still only a little away from gaining the 10th level in his calligraphy skill, the requisite level needed to learn basic fuinjutsu. After an hour of effort, he dispelled his clones and accumulated all of the experience they had built up. The result was gratifying. Calligraphy has leveled up, LV9 LV10. Finally, Naruto cheered. He hurriedly reached inside his inventory and drew out the scroll he had been carrying around for over a month. You have acquired the basic fuinjutsu scroll. Do you wish to learn it? Why, bet your ass I do, Naruto muttered and stabbed the Y button with one finger. Much to his relief, the scroll dissolves into blue light and is absorbed into him as usual. Basic fuinjutsu, passive, active, LV1. 00.00 Fuinjutsu is the art of writing out formulae aimed towards a specific end. It is said that so long as you have the correct formula and enough chakra to activate it, there is nothing that you cannot do. Be warned, however, as one wrong stroke can cause explosions of a life-threatening nature. You are not able to experiment with only basic fuinjutsu. Members of the Uzumaki clan have a natural flair with an understanding of fuinjutsu and receive a +5 bonus to all attempts at the art. Basic fuinjutsu allows you to create basic storage scrolls. At higher levels, you can create storage scrolls that can hold more in them. Then you unlock basic exploding tags. Allows the creation of Type 1 Konohagakure style storage scrolls. Requires 100 CP in order to empower each scroll. 25% chance of failure, includes bonus of Uzumaki bonus. Practicing fuinjutsu also gives bonus express to calligraphy. Beneath all that were the step-by-step instructions on how to create a storage scroll. Naruto was a bit put out that it would only hold a single kunai or shuriken, but it was a place to start, if nothing else. Okay you guys, Naruto declared, "We are gonna practice Fuinjutsu like crazy. These practice scrolls are all very fine and dandy, but not for combat." "Boss, we're almost out of ink," one clone stated. "Yeah, and we only have about 20 blank scrolls," another added. "Grr, fine." The Uzumaki growled, "You turn into Haruka-sensei and go get us more ink. You go to Higarashi's and buy as many blank scrolls as you can." "On it, boss." The clones chorus and leave the apartment at a run. "Meanwhile, you guys start practicing on this storage scroll." Naruto continued, creating and then dispelling another shadow clone so its knowledge was spread throughout the pre-existing clones, then go outside to the roof away from the flowers, and activate them. As the other clones started grabbing scrolls, Naruto mused that having shadow clones was something of a lifesaver. This way, he could test the scrolls without having to risk getting blown up in person. A short while later, with Iruka, the scarred Chunin was taking a stroll over to see his favorite student when he heard the explosion. It clearly came from Naruto's apartment building, so Iruka immediately used a shunshin to teleport to his destination immediately. Landing on the roof in a puff of smoke, he was shocked to see the burnt and tattered remains of a scroll lying on the floor. "Okay." A familiar voice said, much to the Chunin's relief. That last part on the secondary array was not right. "How many of you numbskulls did it the same as him? Only one of you? Good. Let's try that again, shall we?" "Naruto," Iruka called out cautiously. The blonde hair of his student poked out the door, followed by his blue eyes. "Iruka-sensei, how'd you get on my roof?" the blonde boy asked in puzzlement. "Well, when I heard a loud bang coming from here, I used the Shunshin no Jutsu to come here as fast as I could," Iruka explained. "Now, judging by the techno-babble you just spouted and the remnants of the scroll out here, you started working on Fuinjutsu, right?" "Yeah, just those wimpy Type 1 scrolls," Naruto replied with a small pout. "I mean, what's the point of having a sealing array that only seals a single kunai or shuriken?" "It has to do with standardization," Iruka explained. "All ordinary kunai and shuriken have a standard weight and size. This makes them very easy to acquire and use as test items. Besides, never underestimate the usefulness of an extra weapon, no matter how humble, in a pinch." Naruto nodded at that, somewhat appeased by his explanation. Iruka spent the next hour correcting the various mistakes that the clones had made in the various test scrolls that they had made. Some, he informed them, were very basic mistakes made by rookie seal masters. Others were just as a result of bad penmanship, which he was determined to correct. Privately, Iruka was very impressed with the speed with which Naruto had learned and practiced his calligraphy. Only 1 month after he had started, he was at the bare minimum level of penmanship needed to use the most basic of Fuinjutsu. While that would be expected of a high clan such as the Uchiha or Hyuga, for someone deprived of such upbringing to accomplish it almost entirely on his own was quite the feat. "Okay, this one looks like it'll work," Iruka said after carefully examining the latest of Naruto's creations. He wasn't an expert in Fuinjutsu by any means, but he was modestly skilled in the art, making explosive tags for the few missions that he took in addition to his teaching job. Certainly, he was skilled enough to spot a major or minor error in a simple storage scroll. Once more, a volunteer shadow clone strode out onto the roof to activate the storage scroll. This time, thank Kami, it didn't blow up. "That's the first test passed," Iruka said with an approving nod. "What are the other tests?" Naruto asked. "You have to seal and unseal a kunai a couple of times to see if it works properly," the Chunin explained, "then you can say that it works." Nodding, the blonde boy opened his leg holster, pulled out a kunai by the ring and tossed it to his test clone. The clone reluctantly placed the weapon on top of the scroll and pressed one finger to the array. In a puff of chakra smoke, the dagger-like weapon vanished and the kanji for kunai, ku-wu, appeared in the center of the scroll. Next, the clone muttered as he pulsed chakra into the array again, unsealing the kunai in another puff of smoke. After repeating the experiment a couple more times for good measure, the frazzled clone dispels and Naruto went over and scooped up the scroll before proffering it to Iruka. Iruka-sensei, you can have this if you want," he mumbled bashfully. Iruka was actually touched by this. It was Naruto's first successful piece of Fuinjutsu and he was giving it to his teacher. "Thanks you, Naruto," he said with a smile as he rolled the small scroll up and pocketed it. "I'll make good use of it. If you want me to help you out with any other fuinjutsu, just let me know." "Sure." Naruto beamed. Naruto paused after talking for a while longer. Iruka took his leave and Naruto dispelled the clones, prompting a rush of memories and a deluge of screens popping up. "Geez, you'd think they'd only come one at a time," he grumbled good-naturedly. "Let's see here." The first couple were notices that his calligraphy skill had gained bonus express from his attempts at fuinjutsu. About 100 point overall, which wasn't anything to sneeze at. Next was the notice regarding the failure of the first storage scroll, which sucked. The second to last set was very interesting. Apparently, similar to when the Chunin Kitamura helped him with Hing Iruka do one-on-one tutoring had given him an express bonus on top of the bonus he received for being a member of the Uzumaki clan. He was already close to level 2 in fuinjutsu. The last was very interesting, hidden quest unlocked. By starting down the path of using fuinjutsu, you have become eligible for the hidden quest, honoring your ancestors. Honoring your ancestors. You come from a distinguished line of fuinjutsu users. Honor their memory by becoming a sealing master adept in 4 years or less. Quest goal: Master Basic Fuinjutsu, Intermediate Fuinjutsu, Advanced Fuinjutsu, Master Grade Fuinjutsu, and their Uzumaki equivalents in the next 4 years. Quest reward: Title: Uzumaki Sealmaster, 100,000 Express, Map of Uzu Shiogakure. Quest failure: Death accept, YN, yet another chance for me to die if I fail. Naruto grumbled as he jabbed the Y button, meh. After that, the blonde boy reheated some katsudon that he'd had for dinner the previous night and used the last of his rice in the rice cooker for lunch. He would have to go shopping again soon, which would mean transforming into someone else so he wasn't gouged. He sighed and looked out his money. He would have to buy a week's worth, so that meant, damn. That's a lot of ryo. He could afford it, but it wouldn't be cheap. Even without the shopkeepers gouging him with prices. Food prices in Konoha had skyrocketed thanks to Kusagakure engaging in a small war with Takigakure, according to Iruka-sensei. Time to see what Tenten-chan thinks of those bakken I got from training area 13. He muttered as he headed down to the dojo. After carefully counting them out, he had 30 wooden swords, all in perfect condition, not counting that strange golden bakken. Leaving out 6 bakken for himself, Naruto sealed the rest into the one storage scroll that he owned and headed out to Higarashi's in order to see if they would buy the practice weapons from him. After walking through Konoha, and earning yet another level in Detect Bloodthirst, Naruto entered the weapons shop proper, only to be tackle-hugged by an enthusiastic brunette. "Naruto. Thank you," Tenten crowed gleefully, "now I can get my sword." "Ten-chan, let him breathe," her mother said absently from behind the counter as she sharpened a tachi. Tenten squeaked and let go of Naruto, who was once again blue in the face from the weapons mistress' enthusiastic glomp. "You're welcome, Tenten-san," he wheezed once he had breath back in his lungs as the Genin Kunoichi fussed over him apologetically. "So what can we do for you this time, Naruto-kun?" Kanae asked as she carefully placed the sword she was sharpening on the counter. "You were in here just a few hours ago for blank scrolls." "For fuinjutsu?" Tenten asked in surprise. "Yeah. Just made my first Type 1 storage scroll earlier on today with Iruka-sensei's help." The blonde boy replied, "But I'm not here about that. I found some things in Training Ground 13 that I need to sell. The food prices are going up thanks to that war in Kusa." Kanae made a face. "I know, but hopefully that won't go on for much longer. What do you have to offer us?" Naruto took out the scroll, placed it on the counter and unsealed the swords. "These." The Higurashi matriarch picked up the nearest bakken and examined it with a critical eye, even going so far as to give it an experimental practice swing. Replacing it on the counter, she asked carefully, "And you say you found these in Training Ground 13? "Yep." How does 10,000 ryo per blade sound to you?" she asked. Naruto grinned. "Sold." Tenten carried the swords to the section that was made up entirely of practice weapons as her mother counted out 240,000 ryo and handed it over to Naruto, who tucked it into Gama-chan. "You gained 240,000 ryo. I suppose that explains where that shipment went missing, at least." Kanae sighed. "Sorry," Naruto asked. A couple of months back, half of one of our shipments of wooden practice weapons went missing. Tenten explained as she came back, there were Bakken practice spears, Nagamaki, Naginata, all sorts in the shipment. Cost us a fair bit of Ryo to replace. Oh, I found 10 or so practice spears too. Naruto said, I'll bring them tomorrow. I guess since they were yours to begin with I should give you your money back. No, Kanae denied adamantly. Consider the money we pay you as a finder's fee. The shipment was insured and we got paid for it. Bandit attack, of all the bad luck. What worries me is the fact that they turned up in TG-13 in the first place. Tenten put in, that would imply there's a hole in the defenses that non-chakra users can exploit in there. I'll have a look next time I'm in there. Naruto shrugged. I'm planning on moving into Sub-Area 3 tomorrow. The first sub-area had chakra-mutated squirrels and the second had chakra-mutated moles, so I'm curious to see what this nexter has in store for me. I see. Kanae nodded before turning to her daughter, Ten-chan. What are you up to tomorrow? Tenten blinked at the apparent non-sequitur but replied, nothing, I think. Guy-sensei is off on a solo mission. Neji is off training with his clan and Lee is following some kind of ridiculous training schedule that Guy-sensei left behind for him to follow. Why don't you go with Naruto-kun on his training mission tomorrow? Kanae suggested. From everything you've said, Naruto-kun, you're more of a close-range fighter, right? It would be an idea to see how a ranged fighter like Tenten operates. She's very, very good at shurikenjutsu. Okawa-san. The brunette flushed in embarrassment at her mother's effusive praise. Sure. Naruto nodded. If Tenten wants to come with me tomorrow, I'm fine with that. It'll be nice to work with an active duty shinobi. Sure. Tenten nodded shyly. Okay then. Meet at my place at midday then. The Uzumaki said with a grin, looking forward to working with Ya. After a few more moments of conversation, Naruto headed back to his apartment and Tenten busied herself with polishing more of the swords, leaving Kanae to retreat to the back room and inform her husband of the plans for tomorrow. What are you plotting, oh wife of mine? Tatsuhiko suspiciously as he hammered the chakra metal before him into the right shape. This has all the hallmarks of one of your little plots. I'm setting Ten-chan up with Naruto-kun. Kanae stated blandly, if nothing else, they'll become better friends. At best, she might finally get over that Neji boy. Both adult Higurashi scowled at the mention of one Hyuga Neji. Tenten had been crushing on the boy since the third year of the academy and had been teamed up with him as she had been top kunoichi and he had been rookie of the year, with Rock Lee thrown in as the dobi. Neji had been breaking her heart ever since, constantly rebuffing any advances she made and generally treating her like an almost competent lackey, albeit not a very smart one. Let's just say that Tatsuhiko and Kanae were not fond of the boy and leave it at that. Naruto-kun is a nice boy, but he is almost a year younger than Ten-chan. Tatsuhiko protested gruffly. And I'm 5 years younger than you. Kanae reminded him gently. The only other difference between us and them is that Ten-chan is a ninja and Naruto-kun isn't one, yet. Tatsuhiko, entering protective daddy mode for the first time, did not want his steel-eyed princess, as he called her in the recesses of his mind, to be taken away by a boy quite so soon. Granted, Naruto was a nice enough boy, who knew fine well how strong Tenten was from the couple of times she had almost choked him to death and seemed to respect her, rather than look down on her like more than a few civilian boys did. But still. His little girl. Kanae sighed at seeing the conflict in his eyes. Anata, she may fall for him, then again she may not. I think that, at the very least, they have the foundations of a solid friendship. Let's just see where it goes, shall we? Yes, dear. The blacksmith sighed. The next day in Mikage Apartments when Tenten knocked on Naruto's door, she was surprised at the sight of his clones at work, churning out numerous storage scrolls. What the heck are those? She asked him with wide eyes. Shadow clones. Naruto replied, it's a kinjutsu that I can use only because I have bucket loads of chakra. Ordinarily, it can only be used by Jonin-level ninja, at least. Why haven't you graduated if you can use those? The weapons mistress asked in bewilderment. I only learned the technique a month and a half ago. Naruto explained, It was a special dispensation, I think Iruka-sensei called it, from Gigi, because I can't do the ordinary Bunshin no jutsu to save my life. Seriously? You can't use the Bunshin? Tenten was taken aback by that before shrugging. Meh. No one uses that jutsu once they graduate from the academy anyway. I haven't, not even on the C-rank missions I've been on. Knew it. Naruto muttered. So why are they copying stuff out? She continued. Mass production of Type 1 storage scrolls. The Uzumaki replied with a shrug. Practice makes perfect, after all. But they're only clones. Tenten pointed out. Yeah, but when they dispel, I get the accumulated experience of their existence. The blonde boy pointed out in return. It's an ability unique to the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu that makes learning ninjutsu, fuinjutsu and book learning a snap. Higurashi Tenten wasn't a jealous person by nature, but the revelations regarding the usefulness of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu did spark a slight amount of the emotion in her, but she brushed it away with some effort and turned her mind to the question of why he could do this. If he couldn't use the Bunshin, then being able to use a more powerful version must mean that, no, surely not. You have too much chakra and too poor a control on it to use the Bunshin, she said flatly, while a lack of control doesn't hinder you with the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. I'm right, aren't I? Naruto nodded sourly. My inheritance as an Uzumaki means that E-ranked jutsu like the Bunshin are hard or impossible for me to use. I'm actually perfectly good at the Henge no Jutsu and the Kawarimi no Jutsu, but the Bunshin uses too little chakra for me to use it. That sucks. Tenten had to wince at that. Meh. I'm graduating this time for sure though, so it's all good. Naruto grinned. Let me grab my kunai pack and we can go. As the boy dashed into his bedroom to fetch the aforementioned pack of weapons, Tenten had a peek at one of the completed and activated storage scrolls. It was a bit rough, but otherwise it was very good. Nice job. She nodded to the clones, who all blushed. Just wait until we get up to regular storage scrolls, one declared. I'd be interested in seeing that, the weapons mistress said with a nod. Sorry for the wait, Naruto said as he hurried back into the room. Right, let's go. With that, he gestured at the dozen shadow clones and they dispelled in 2s and 3s. If I dispel them all at once, I get a headache. Naruto answered the question in Tenten's eyes. 2 or 3 at a time with a few seconds in between dispersals is fine though. The older girl nodded, but her mind was working fast. The shadow clone jutsu looked like a very powerful technique, with several drawbacks that justly earned it the title of Kinjutsu in her book. Why would Hokage-sama allow Naruto to learn such a dangerous jutsu when he isn't even a genin yet? She wondered, why not one of the elemental clones instead? With Naruto, observe, Naruto whispered as he looked at Tenten as the two walked down the street, making her profile come up. Name: Higurashi Tenten class. Weapons mistress level, 22, next level, 56.32. Title: Genin, plus 15% expressed to level 25, age, 14 HP, 3650 3650ths. CP, 2600 2600s, 2600 3650ths, STR, 41 STA, 42 DEX, 52. Int, 25 WIS, 25 LUK, 15 special status. Hawkeye, passive, plus 25% expressed to Shurikenjutsu, plus 20% chance to hit while using Shurikenjutsu, unknown ninja heritage, intermediate weapons combat mastery, passive, plus 25% expressed to any weapon styles learned. Perks: Wool of Steel True Kunoichi Natural Talent, Weapons Mastery. Flaws: Hot-tempered controlled fangirl, Senju Tsunade. Partially sealed chakra pool. Higurashi Tenten is the top kunoichi of her academy class, a prodigy in the use of any and all weapons that she can lift with her hands, with a special flair for shurikenjutsu. Despite this, she is a fair, friendly person, with a slight dislike for fangirls, despite having similar leanings towards Senju Tsunade of the legendary Three Ninja. Naruto was very impressed by Tenten's stats. Her dex stat in particular was off the charts. How the hell did she get it so high only a year out of the academy? He considered two anomalous points on her profile. the unknown ninja heritage, special status and the partially sealed chakra pool. Flaw. The former was fairly straightforward in that she was descended from a ninja clan of some description. Probably one of the clans all but wiped out during the day of the Kyuubi 12 years ago. Partially sealed chakra pool was another thing though. From what his basic knowledge of Fuinjutsu told him, sealing someone's chakra, even slightly, was a difficult task to accomplish for even someone of Jiraiya of the Sannin skill without causing unfortunate side effects. As Tenten didn't show any of those side effects, unstable personality, inability to use chakra and muscular spasms, she had obviously been correctly sealed. Why she had been sealed was a good question, though. Sealing someone's chakra, even partially, was rarely done for any reason other than punishment, so the question was, who had sealed her chakra and why did they do it? Quest alert. Born of Steel. 1. Your friend Higurashi Tenten is an orphan who has had her chakra partially sealed for some reason. Investigate her origins in order to discover why it has been done. Quest reward. Plus 1500 XP, plus 2000 Ryo, Tenkin, plus 2 STR. Quest failure. Plus 300 XP. Accept. Why, N. Why is there a 1 next to the quest name? Naruto wondered. Chain quests. A chain quest is when the completion of one quest automatically leads to the creation of one related to it. Basic chain quests can have as few as 2 parts to them, but the more complex ones can reach up to 15 in a row. Understanding this, Naruto paused uncertainly. He was curious about why Tenten had had some of her chakras sealed, but he felt that prying into her past without permission would be distinctly rude. She was a genin with more than adequate chakra reserves, so obviously the seal wasn't interfering in her ninja career to any degree. Did he have a right to interfere in her life to that degree? Surely just looking into it can't hurt, he reasoned as he pushed the Y button. We're here, Tenten declared, startling Naruto, who looked up in surprise. They were indeed standing right in front of Training Ground 13. That went by fast. Naruto observed. You were really lost in thought as we walked. Tenten noted, something up. Nah. Naruto shook his head, it's nothing. So how do you want to do this? Actually, have you ever fought any chakra mutations before? Nope. The brunette shook her head once. Guy-sensei says that fighting those who are mutated is unyouthful, if you can believe it. The blonde academy student looked at her blankly as if to say, seriously? Okay then. He said after his mind rebooted, in which case, we'll start off in sub-area 1 to get you accustomed to fighting chakra mutations. They're a bit different to humans. No duh. Tenten deadpanned before grinning, lead on then. Hold up. Naruto picked a stone up from the ground, Doden. Gansetsukan no Jutsu. As the stone transformed into a long staff, Tenten jumped slightly and stared. Whoa, didn't know you could turn rocks into weapons, she said a bit jealously. Basic Doden Jutsu. Naruto shrugged. So is Earth your primary affinity? The brunette asked interestedly. Nope. I have a wind affinity B affinity for Earth. Naruto replied, what about you? I don't know. Tenten admitted sheepishly, my team focuses on the physical side of things. Taijutsu, weapon styles and shurikenjutsu, to the exclusion of all else. The only real ninjutsu I know are the Academy 3. Naruto was struck dumb by the stupidity of that training style. Before he remembered something, your team has that Rock Lee guy, right? The one who can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu. Maybe that's why your teacher isn't training you in it, to make things fairer on him. True, that, and the Hyuga prodigy, Neji, is on my team too. Tenten nodded glumly. He disdains anything that isn't the Jukin Taijutsu style of the Hyuga clan. So I'd be the only one learning anything. That's still unfair to you. The Uzumaki frowned before shrugging, meh. If I find any jutsu scrolls in here, have a look at them and see if they interest you. Heck, I'll even teach you the couple of wind and earth techniques that I know. This earned him another hug from the brunette, inside sub-area 1. Holy crap. Tenten gawped at the 3 rabid red squirrels, as they snarled at her and Naruto, those things are huge. Yep, and they're about to charge. Naruto said grimly, so get ready. Doden. Iwabunshin no Jutsu. As 20 rock clones clawed their way out of the ground, Tenten gawped for another moment before shaking herself out of her stupefaction and drawing a kunai in each hand. "Any hints for weak spots?" she asked. "Once they leap, they're vulnerable, but they can still twist in midair, so jump in, slash and retreat," Naruto advised as he spun his staff in a familiar way. "Here they come." While the chakra-mutated squirrels were fast and agile, for an experienced kunoichi like Tenten, who sparred against taijutsu monsters like Rock Lee and Hyuga Neji on a regular basis, they may as well have been moving in slow motion. Countercharging the mutations, the weapon's mistress deftly sliced the throat of the first squirrel before throwing her off-hand kunai into the forehead of the next one. She then leapt up over the last one and buried her weapon up to the hilt into the base of its skull. Holy crap! She took them down without even breaking a sweat, Naruto thought in stunned awe. He hadn't been able to unshot the damn things until just recently, and that was with careful aim with his staff. Tenten had managed it with 2 kunai. "Yikes," Naruto whispered. "These things weren't so tough," the brunette said with a grin as she retrieved her blades. "Considering they're the weakest mutations in the whole area and you're an experienced genin, that isn't a surprise," Naruto noted. "I call those ones rabid red squirrels. They have bigger cousins I call gnashing gray squirrels, and they're a lot tougher." "Oh, then let's get to finding them," Tenten said as she wiped her weapons clean of blood. Nodding, Naruto led her through the trees, surreptitiously closing the window detailing how much express had been divided between him and Tenten. Evidently, even an ad hoc party like this still allowed for splitting experience between party members. "So how many jutsu have you found in here anyway?" Tenten asked as the two kept their eyes out for any gnashing gray squirrels. "A. 5. Naruto replied. "Doden. Gansetsukan, a scroll on basic Fuinjutsu, Futon. Kaden Shuriken, Doden. Dangan and Ninpo. Karada Kyodo Kyoka." "What's the last one?" the weapons mistress asked curiously. "A very much lesser version of Senju Tsunade's chakra-enhanced strength," Naruto replied. "Seriously?" Tenten squealed. "Can I borrow it, please?" "Sorry, I gave that jutsu scroll to a classmate of mine as a present," the blonde boy said apologetically. "If we find another one here, it's here though. My chakra control is way too spotty to use the blasted technique." This earned him a grin and a nod from the brunette. With Tenten's superior strength, it only took them half an hour to clear Sub-Area 1 and move on to Sub-Area 2. Here, Tenten had a great deal of trouble against the mutated moles, as the Dangan they fired off were immune to her thrown weapons. She switched to close combat and unsealed a Sansetsukan, 3-section staff, leaping around the boulders to smash the slavering star moles over the head so quickly they had no time to hit her with their claws. The kunoichi clearly knew how to strike the chakra mutations for best effect, crushing their skulls with every blow she dealt out. Naruto made a mental note for the umpteenth time to not get on her bad side. "You are a very scary girl, you know that, Tenten?" he said after the last mole fell to her. "Why thank you." The brunette beamed at him, as if she hadn't had such a nice compliment in ages. Naruto made another note to himself that strong kunoichi were slightly weird. As they made their way to the entrance of the next area, Naruto compared his style with Tenten's and found it wanting. She moved quickly and precisely through her enemies, dealing with them with minimum expenditure of effort and maximum amount of damage. "Hey Tenten, what taijutsu style do you use?" he asked curiously. Oh, I don't really use a taijutsu style," the brunette replied. "I almost always have at least a kunai out, preferably more than one. When I do fight barehanded, I guess I use a modified version of the Hokage style that my dad calls the Soko Ken, or armed fist style. Mostly because I wear these." The kunoichi unsealed a set of armored gloves and showed them to him. The back of the hand and fingers were lined with a layer of interlocking plates of shaped steel. The knuckle guards had small spikes jutting up to increase the damage of her punches further. "Yikes, remind me to get some armor for my arms for when I spar with you," Naruto joked. Tenten grinned smugly. "Got that right," just before they reached the door. Bloodlust detected. Above and to both sides. Naruto reacted immediately, tackling Tenten to the ground as a pair of kunai and a senbon whistled through the place she had been standing only seconds before. "What the kunoichi snarled as she rolled to her feet. "Someone's attacking us," Naruto said just before he had to duck as another kunai whistled through the air again. These are live weapons. The brunette cursed as she drew her own from her rear holster. Who are they? Not got a clue. He replied, I aim to find out though. All clones bombard the tree line. As numerous Gansetsukan pelt the trees like rain, Tenten had to ask, why are they throwing their staves? They can be used as either close combat weapons or as ranged weapons. The blonde explained hurriedly, aha, got one of the bastards. Indeed, one of the assailants fell from a tree with a Gansetsukan impaled through his leg. He wore blue combat trousers with white splotches dotted over it, a slate-gray shinobi vest and a hite 8 with 4 diagonal lines in a square formation engraved on it, with a single horizontal line bisecting it. Kirigakure nuke nin, Naruto shouted in warning. That's right, brat. The fallen man said in a monotone as he nonchalantly tugged the stone stave out of his leg. We were going to sell you and the girl, but for wounding me, we'll make you watch as we ruin her before we sell her. The man was soon joined by 3 other missing ninja, all from Kirigakure. One made a lewd gesture at Tenten with his hips. The blonde orphan ground his teeth together in anger. He glanced at Tenten and recoiled as anger seemed to emanate from her like a tangible, physical force. Her expression was almost demonic and the blonde boy was very, very grateful that she was on his side. Without saying a word, she pulled out 2 scrolls from her specially made side pouches, slammed them down onto the ground and then rapidly ran through 5 hand signs: tiger, dragon, monkey, hare and snake before crossing her arms. Ninpo, ninja art, she growled, Soshoryu, twin rising dragons. An explosion of smoke concealed her before a pair of long streams of smoke rose up. They actually looked like dragons. They stretched up, reaching high into the heavens, and Tenten was rising up rapidly to match them. Ruin me? Sell me in Naruto? She hissed. We'll see about that. Chapter 12. Watch out for the rain of steel. Naruto gazed in awe at Tenten as she seemed to float in midair, with the scrolls appearing out of the smoke dragons. She was really, really amazing. But really, really pissed at the nuke nin. The blonde boy decided that keeping on this girl's good side was a priority in the future. As she reached for the scrolls, the world turned gray and everything froze. Tenten, the movement of the trees and the movement of the nuke nin, all stopped dead. Karmic choice. This choice will determine the future of your relationship with Higurashi Tenten. Choose carefully, because words once spoken cannot be taken back, and actions speak louder than words. Choice 1. Righteous. Let's take these losers out together. Tenten. Fight alongside Tenten and defeat the missing ninja together. Plus 500 reputation with Higurashi Tenten. Plus 250, righteous. Alignment. Plus 1000 XP. Choice 2. Pragmatic. My clones'll help you out. Plus 100 reputation with Higurashi Tenten. Plus 250, pragmatic. Alignment. Plus 50 XP. What the, as if I just stand back and let my clones fight, Naruto scoffed as he hit the first option with one hand, drawing a handful of shuriken with the other. Tenten, let's take on these losers together, he shouted as the world returned to normal. Got it, Tenten grinned savagely as she replied. A window popped up. Quest alert. Survive. You and Tenten have been attacked by 4 nuke nin in Training Ground 13. Defeat them or survive their attacks on you for 10 minutes, at which time reinforcements will arrive to aid you. Quest completion reward. 3000 express, plus 1000 relationship with Konohagakure Shinobi Forces, minus 1000 relationship with random piece of armor, 10,000 Ryo. Quest failure. A fate worse than death. Bonus objective. Defeat at least 1 enemy combatant. Bonus reward. Mystery prize accept. Y, and Naruto scanned the opposition, 4 missing ninja, as he hit the Y button. Abari Shun LV-29, Kirigakure Nuke Enen, Miyanaga Keiichiro LV-26. Kirigakure Nuke Enen, Ryamonbuchi Sho LV-27, Kirigakure Nuke Enen. Shioizumi Raiji LV-26, Kirigakure Nuke Enen, he frowned. Those titles were uniformly suspicious. What was with the quote marks in them? Anyway, they were way stronger than both Tenten and himself, but fortunately, he had scanned several people over the past few months and had concluded that levels were only one indication of a person's power. Several Chunin had had poorer stats than Tenten, a genin, possessed. Whether it was lack of training or some other factor Naruto didn't know, but some people, rank and level to one side, were just weirdly weak. Mizuki Teme for example was way weaker than Iruka-sensei. Futon. Kaden Shuriken, he shouted, throwing all 5 of the shuriken into the air after infusing them with his wind-natured chakra, just as Tenten tapped the scrolls twirling around her, releasing a swarm of weapons that she started throwing at the 4 startled, missing Enin with such speed and accuracy they barely had time to dodge her weapons, several sharp kunai. The injured one barely managed to hop away before being struck by the projectiles. This meant they were taken off guard when Naruto slammed his Kaden Shuriken into their legs and arms. The one with the injury, Shioizumi, actually screamed when the shuriken buried itself in his arm. This was an additional effect that Kaden Shuriken had gained when it had reached level 10. Futon. Kaden Shuriken no Jutsu. Active, LV12, 73.07 Express. The Wind Style. Rotating Shuriken Jutsu is a useful jutsu for increasing the effectiveness of your shuriken jutsu. By infusing a shuriken with wind-natured chakra, you increase its cutting power. Once a shuriken has been infused, you can manipulate the shuriken to attack your opponents remotely. Actively increases the damage of any infused bladed weapon by 25 plus 5%. Actively allows you to control the infused weapon up to 15 meters away. Added effect. Blades of Lesser Wind. Once the shuriken strike a target, they unleash 2 to 3 additional blades of wind into the target, causing 10 to 15 plus 5% points of damage with a high chance for a critical hit. Hand signs. None. Number of weapons that can be infused and manipulated, 5. Costs 23 CP per weapon, per minute. Futon affinity and chakra control cost reductions included. The Blades of the Lesser Wind that it had picked up from somewhere was really useful thanks to the high critical hit ratio. In every test Naruto had done with them, there was a 100% chance of at least one of the blades scoring a critical hit, a 60% chance of 2 critical hits and a 10% of all 3, per individual shuriken. Judging by the gritted teeth from the other, missing ninja, they had all been hit with at least one blade, with the injured one getting hit with all 3 critical hits, which would explain why his arm was flopping around uselessly. That's one that we don't have to worry about ninjutsu or genjutsu coming from. Naruto thought grimly, and with his leg mostly immobilized, he won't be a threat taijutsu-wise unless we go near him, which we won't. Beat the brats. One ordered dully, in that same monotone. That, more than their odd titles, convinced Naruto that these guys were not what they seemed to be. Doden. Dongan no Jutsu. 3 voices called out from the side of the battle, the missing ninjas snapping their heads around to see 3 menhirs sailing towards them. Abandoning their crippled teammate, the mobile ones leapt away from ground zero, leaving the last man to scream once before being squashed under one of the rock bullets. Eliminate the clones and blind them, the same person, Abari, the highest leveled one, ordered before running through 3 hand signs, Sweden. Reku Sugeki no Jutsu. Water Style. Cold Sky Water Attack Jutsu. Futon. Kiryu Ranbu no Jutsu. Wind Style. Air Current Wild Dance Jutsu, Ryamonbuchi Snarled. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Miyanaga chanted. As the wind picked up and flung dust around, blinding the 2 genin, spears of water shot out from one side and a gout of flames shot out of the other side, aiming straight at the clones, who responded with a wave of Dangan. This countered the flames of the Gokakyu, but the Reku Sugeki chewed through the rock impediment, forcing the Iwa Bunshin to dodge to the side. Time to remind them I'm here. Naruto thought as he knelt of the ground, ran through 3 hand signs and then slammed his hand on the ground, shouting, Doden. Gansetsukan no Jutsu. Erupting from the ground were 10 stone canes that were clustered in a loose spread at where the one still firing the Reku Sugeki roughly stood. From the cursing that came several seconds later as the water spears stopped, at least one had scored a hit. Tenten had been sending thrown weapon after thrown weapon into the dust cloud in an attempt to track down the other 2, but had had no luck. With a growl, the girl ended her jutsu and descended to earth again. Bojutsu. Sansetsukan, Staff Jutsu. 3-section cane. She muttered as she unsealed a plain black staff that had 2 divides spaced equally. "How are you doing, Naruto?" "Killed one of them, wounded another," he replied grimly. "There should be reinforcements coming soon. What with all the noise we've made here and the flash from the Kaden Jutsu?" "I don't know any, so that should send warning signals to the Anbu on guard." Tenten grinned. "Life is never boring when you're around, eh Naruto?" "I guess so," the blonde boy replied, really wishing that he could use his tanto at this point as he made another Gansetsukan. "Damn, this dust cloud is thick. Any sign of the enemy?" "My eyes are sharp, but not Byakugan sharp," the weapon's mistress replied as she went back to back with him to prevent the 3 remaining enemies from sneaking up on them easily. "It can't last long. Whoever's maintaining this is using a hell of a lot of chakra to do so, and a futon affinity is really rare, so it must be draining chakra from him like a sponge to water." "Take them," Abari ordered, his voice echoing from all arted his teeth. The man was using some sort of jutsu to make his voice appear to come from all around them like that. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted a shadow moving around in the dust. These people had to be capable of elemental clones as well, so he couldn't risk reacting yet. He heard a whirring sound in the air and then a metallic clank as Tenten deflected a shuriken with her staff, then he felt a presence from above. "Down," he shouted, following his own advice, and doing so, Tenten did as well, just in time to dodge a savage slash from Miyanaga wielding a ninjutsu. "We have to take them alive, you idiot," Abari said as he appeared and tried to cut Naruto's arm off with his own weapon. An extra-large kunai that was more of a sword than a kunai. "Screw that. He killed Shio Izumi," Miyanaga said in a monotone. "I'm going to kill him and take his girlfriend as my bitch." Naruto actually snarled at this. Tenten got physical. She lashed out with her staff and separated the staff into 3 sections linked by thin, but strong chains. She whacked Abari across the head, drew the staff back and grabbed the 2 outer sections before delivering a punishing barrage of hits with the metal-capped ends on Miyanaga's abdomen. Sansetsukan Bojutsu. Sangeki Renden. 3-section cane staff jutsu. 3 strikes barrage. The weapon's mistress growled angrily as she backed away from the wheezing man. "I'm no man's bitch. And Naruto's my friend, not my boyfriend." "Anbu." The 3rd man called. "Scatter." With a curse and a pathetic attempt at a murderous glare in their direction. The 2 missing ninja vanished in puffs of smoke seconds before a strong gust of wind blew the dust cloud around them away and 4 figures in gray armor and animal masks appeared around the 2 of them. "Uzumaki-san, Genin Higurashi, are either of you hurt?" the one with a bird mask asked urgently. "We're both fine, Tori-san," Naruto replied. "The only ones who got hurt were the Nuke Nin." "Nuke Nin? Inside Konoha's walls?" the cat-masked Anbu asked sharply. "Saru, go and alert the Chunin patrollers that we have a breach. Ryu and I will take these 2 to Hokage-sama. There's a dead Nuke Nin under one of the Dangan," Naruto said, his face turning a bit green. Crushed him. "First kill jitters," Neko muttered. "Come on Uzumaki-san. Hokage-sama will want to talk to the both of you. Ryu, take Genin Higurashi. Tori, gather all of Genin Higurashi's weapons and seal up the body of the Nuke Nin for Yamanaka-san to analyze later." Tori nodded and set to work with Naruto's shadow clones as Neko and Ryu vanished with the 2 kids. Later Hokage's office Sarutobi Hiruzen fought to keep the scowl off his face as Tenten gave her side of the story. "Nuke Nin, inside Konoha," he thought angrily, targeting Naruto. "Whoever let them in will wish they had never been born when I get my hands on them." "Very good, Genin Higurashi," he said once the bun-haired girl finished her recitation. "I must commend you for your actions and hereby award you the payment for a solo C rank for your efforts against the Nuke Nin. Naruto-kun, is there anything you'd like to add?" "Anyo, I think that they weren't really Nuke Nin," his favorite orphan said with a frown. "Oh, what makes you say that?" Hiruzen asked thoughtfully. "They were dressed right, but the way they acted, after the first sensation of ki, they didn't let off any more, as if they weren't trying to kill us." Naruto began listing the discrepancies, plus they spoke in complete monotone. No inflections, no accents, no emotions, nothing. They spoke the words, but it was like they were reading the words from a script rather than meaning them. It kind of felt like they were testing us. The Hokage felt a headache coming on. Emotionless shinobi. It could only be Danzo who was behind this. Nei and its inhumane training regime create moderately capable combat shinobi, but the infiltration side of things was almost useless. Breaking someone of all emotions and making them see themselves as nothing more than a weapon not unlike a kunai tended to have that kind of effect on their ability to masquerade as a civilian. Very good. I will take that information into account, Naruto-kun. He said with a nod. Now, Genin Higurashi, I have taken the liberty of informing your parents of what has occurred and they should be waiting outside. Neko-san, please take Naruto-kun back to his home while I explain how a genin was forced to fight 4 Chunin-level shinobi with only an academy student as backup. I'll come by later to talk to you about this in more detail, Naruto-kun. Hi, Gigi. Naruto nodded before he was whisked away by Neko. A few minutes later, Naruto's apartment. The Uzumaki stumbled as the purple-haired Anbu landed on his roof and shook his head doggedly. Sighed along Shunshin's suck. He grumbled, do you want a cup of tea or something, Neko-san? Not on duty, but the thought is appreciated, Uzumaki-san. Neko replied. She paused for a moment before venturing, how are you coping with your first kill? Naruto sighed. The gamer's mind stopped him being emotional about it, but the intellectual side. Better than I thought I would. He admitted, I guess killing all those chakra mutations was of some good as I didn't freeze up when I realized I had killed him. But, it isn't easy to realize a jutsu I used killed him. Neko put a hand on his shoulder. It shouldn't be comfortable. Even Anbu don't like to kill, but we do it when ordered to or when our duty demands it because otherwise those we have sworn to protect will suffer. The same applies in your case. Had you not reacted decisively as you did, Genin Higurashi could be undergoing a fate worse than death right now and you could be dead or crippled. Take pride in the fact that you prevented it and move forward. Thanks, Neko-san. Naruto smiled wanly. Well, I'd best be getting back to practicing my Fuinjutsu. Still have to get those damn Type 1 scrolls right. May I see a copy? Neko asked curiously. Naruto led her into his apartment, pulled one from the pile of finished scrolls and handed it to her. Examining it, she nodded slowly. This is actually very well done for an amateur. Keep practicing as you have been and you could sell these. Would people actually buy storage scrolls that can only hold a single kunai? Naruto asked doubtfully. This size of storage scroll is small enough and thin enough to conceal easily. Neko explained, on infiltration missions, being able to conceal a scroll with a weapon and it can mean the difference between life and death if things go wrong. So yes, you could sell them. 700 ryo a scroll, say. Wow. The blonde orphan said as he looked at the pile of scrolls with a new light, never realized these things could be useful. A saying from Hitaki Sakumo, Konoha no Shiroi Kiba, the white fang of Konoha, applies here. Neko said, look underneath the underneath. See that which is not immediately obvious and the subtext that flows beneath what is typically seen and heard. You would be surprised as to how many things happen that you can't see normally. Naruto nodded slowly. Thank you for the advice, Neko-san. Think nothing of it. The masked woman replied, I must be heading back now. Hokage-sama will be with you by 7. With that, the Anbu walked out of the apartment and vanished in a Konoha Shunshin. So it was with a sigh that Naruto set up his miniature Fuinjutsu assembly line and settled down to examine the flurry of screens that had popped up since the ambush. Karmic choice. Righteous. You gained plus 500 reputation with Higurashi Tenten. You gained plus 250 righteous alignment. You have defeated Shioizumi Raiji. You earn 1500 express. Higurashi Tenten earns 1200 EXP. You have leveled up, LV12 LV13. You have 5 attribute points to spend. You saved alerted Higurashi Tenten to an attack from her blind spot. You gained plus 500 reputation with Higurashi Tenten, Higurashi Kanae, and Higurashi Tatsuhiko. Quest complete. Survive. You have survived the storm on surviving. Quest completion reward. Plus 3000 XP, plus 1000 reputation with Konoha Shinobi Forces, minus 1000 reputation with Lesser Fujin Jacket, 10,000 ryo. Bonus objective achieved. You defeated the Kirigakure missing ninja, Shioizumi Raiji. Bonus objective reward. Futon. Senfukyu Jutsu Scroll. Plus 250 relationship with Konoha Anbu forces. You have leveled up, LV13 LV14. You have 5 attribute points to spend. You impressed the Hokage with your analysis of your opponents, plus 250 reputation with Sarutobi Hiruzen. Phew, that's cool. With my academy student title not working anymore, it usually takes forever to level up. Naruto grumbled. Seriously. It took a month of constant grinding to level up twice once he reached level 10. Name: Uzumaki Naruto class. The gamer level: 14, next level: 01.21%. Title: Academy student, plus 25% expressed to LV10, age: 12. HP: 1700 CP, 1700 STR, 39 STA, 44, plus 10. Dex: 30 INT, 30 WIS, 34 LUK. With 10 AP to play with, Naruto had to consider exactly what he wanted to do. His stamina was still far and above his top stat, with strength a close second. Dexterity was flagging though, so he dropped 5 points into that, with the other 5 going into intelligence. Now for the really good stuff. He opened his inventory and pulled out the jutsu scroll he had received for completing the bonus quest and grinned when the window popped up. You have acquired the Futon Senfukyu Jutsu Scroll. Do you wish to learn this? Why, and, finally, another Futon Ninjutsu? Naruto cheered as he stabbed the Y button. All the Doden ninjutsu were nice, but he was really wanting to up the arsenal of his primary affinity. Congratulations! You have learned Futon Senfukyu. Futon Senfukyu. Active, LV1. 00.00, Wind Style. Spiraling Wind Ball is a high C-rank jutsu that, with time and practice, can be strong enough to pierce through solid rock. After forming the hand signs, the user brings their dominant hand to their lips and exhales, creating a sphere that can be fired at the target. With practice, these spheres can be fired consecutively. Hand signs. Bird Rat Bird spheres fired, 1 range, 10 meters. Damage: 25 plus 5% chakra cost, 27.4 CP, huh? Naruto muttered. Yes, it was a long-range wind jutsu, something that he had been trying to get for a while, but it was somewhat less destructive than he had been hoping for. Well, I'll just have to train it up, he resolved. Next, he took out the Lesser Fujin jacket from his inventory. It was royal blue, with light green trimming and the kanji for wind, Feng, emblazoned on the back in black. There was even a patch on the arms to put a clan emblem on, which he would have to do. Observe, he said. Lesser Fujin jacket, emblazoned with the kanji for wind. This jacket is perfect for one who aspires to wield Futon Ninjutsu, as it is said that one who wears it will have their Futon Ninjutsu empowered. Part of the Lesser Fujin set. Level 12 Def plus 15 effect. Minor wind empowerment. All Futon Ninjutsu gains plus 5 to their effects. Awesome. The blonde orphan breathed and shrugged the jacket on. It fit snugly without being too restrictive with his movement. Plus, it looked damn cool on him. Just about the only thing better would be a haori of some kind. How are the scrolls coming, guys? Naruto asked. They look much better than the last lot. One clone opined as it examined its work critically. Bearing in mind we've only been at this for a few days, that's pretty good. Do we need to do another scroll run? He asked the clone that was in charge of keeping account of the scrolls and ink. Not today or tomorrow, but the day after, definitely, the clone replied. Ink'll last about that long too. Well, that's something at least. Naruto grumbled. I have to stick around and wait for Sarutobi Gigi. What to do? The plants? One clone suggested offhand. Brightening up, Naruto went off to tend to his plants. He only needed to do it every week or so, but a little extra attention never hurt. Surprisingly, he hadn't gotten a gardening skill from all that. Or even horticulture or anything remotely to do with the care and maintenance of plants. Some things about the gamer, Naruto decided, were not anything close to making sense. Later. Hokage's office, and that's what Naruto-kun and Tenten-chan said. Sarutobi finished. Opinions. The three men opposite him exchanged looks before one spoke up. Troublesome. Nara's Shikaku groused. Definitely Danzo's little clockwork army. The Uzumaki was pretty sharp to notice all those little things that even an experienced genin like Higurashi didn't notice. The question is, did he send them to capture or kill Naruto? Sarutobi asked, keeping his own opinions to himself. Akamichi Choza, seated to Shikaku's right, snorted. Danzo wouldn't have the balls to have the Uzumaki assassinated. He probably still has wet dreams about controlling him and usurping you, Hokage-sama. So capture it is. Sarutobi nodded in agreement. I suspect this might have something to do with my youngest, Asuma, moving into the Amikage apartments. Additionally, Asuma was almost injured in a mysterious accident with a runaway cart full of cabbages earlier. Yamanaka Inoichi raised an eyebrow. So you think the Warhawk didn't like the idea of Asuma-san living in the same building as our friendly neighborhood Jinchuriki and orchestrated a plan to both delay Asuma moving in and capture Naruto? I do. Hiruzen confirmed, as they withdrew as soon as Anbu were spotted. I suspect that part of their secondary objectives in the case they couldn't capture Naruto-kun was to draw out his Anbu watchers and identify them, as well as giving Danzo a proper report on Naruto's combat abilities. The other three nodded, bowing to the Sandame's greater knowledge of the inner workings of the mind of Shimura Danzo. Not an honor they would like to have. Question. Is there any proof of the nuke nin being anything other than who they claimed themselves to be aside from the reports of a genin and an academy student? Shikaku asked. No, Sarutobi grated. The one that Naruto-kun killed had his head crushed rather spectacularly, so there isn't any brain for a Yamanaka to probe or any remaining sign of the Juinjutsu that Danzo uses to keep his agents from talking. Just about the only odd thing about the corpse is that it is pale, as if he had not been exposed to sunlight for many years. Nay. Shikaku shook his head in disgust. So what's the plan? Obviously, Naruto-kun will be in danger of further attacks if Danzo thinks he can get away with it. Sadly, I cannot give him a larger detail of Anbu without compromising other missions. Sarutobi said with a sigh. Asuma will mitigate that somewhat, but he'll be on missions in another month's time, so his aegis shall be limited, especially when he takes a genin team. He requested our kids, I memory serves. Inoichi mused. You gonna say yes to that? I am tempted to. Sarutobi admitted, yet Asuma is probably the only person in Konoha other than Danzo and myself with an extensive knowledge of futon ninjutsu, and Naruto is a primary wind element, with an earth sub-element. Weren't you planning on putting the Uzumaki with Hitaki? Shikaku asked. Kakashi requested him, along with Uchiha Sasuke, but Naruto-kun broke down the team dynamic of a potential team-up with him, Sakura-chan and Sasuke. The Hokage said as he lit his pipe, not a pleasant one. He has been working with Sakura-chan to improve her general fitness and taijutsu with success, but Sasuke has a superiority complex, as well as an inferiority complex. Naruto-kun's rapid gain in strength since he started applying himself fully has made the Uchiha throw some unsettling looks at him. Troublesome. Choza commented, earning himself a dirty look from the original user of that phrase. Just about the only thing I would suggest, Shikaku said reluctantly, would be to have the place full of such politically sensitive people that to have several teams of Anbu guarding it, clan heirs and heiresses, visiting dignitaries, ambassadors. Those sorts of people. Either them or people who require watching due to suspicious behavior, but the first would be preferable. Obviously. Sarutobi nodded, but in case you hadn't noticed Shikaku, there isn't exactly a surfeit of clans who want their heirs or heiresses to move into a Jinchuriki's building. Hiyashi, just to give a random example, would throw a fit at the suggestion. As for dignitaries and ambassadors, there's already the Golden Leaf Hotel and the dignitaries' barracks in the Hokage Tower itself. And I refuse to put Naruto-kun in further danger by entertaining the last suggestion. You could have the genin from the newly graduated class move in there after graduation. Shikaku pointed out lazily, give them some guff about learning independence and financial management. With so many in one place, you'd be obliged to make the Amikage apartments a high-priority watching situation. Useful for after graduation, but not so much at the moment. Inoichi pointed out, there's still several months until then. Well, Yoshino won't let Shikamaru move out before graduating, I'll tell you that for nothing. The Nara clan head said firmly. I can imagine the same would be true for your wives. Inoichi and Choza grimaced and nodded in agreement, making Sarutobi chuckle. While not anywhere close to being as intimidating as Nara Yoshino, the wives of the other two members of the original Ino Shikacho were not women to be crossed lightly, if at all. I think we should table this until we have more ideas, he said firmly. For the moment, Naruto-kun is safe and I shall instruct his Anbu guards to maintain a stricter vigil on him while in training ground 13 to prevent this sort of incident from happening again. Inoichi, how did the interviews with the former council members go? The Yamanaka smiled grimly. Oh, they were most illuminating. I'll have the report written up for you by the end of the week. Excellent. The Hokage was sick and tired of people messing with Naruto and deliberately making things hard for him, so that report would be highly useful in making those who had removed all mention of Uzushiogakure from the syllabus. He knew that the main instigator would be Danzo, with Kaharu and Homura as either willing conspirators or unknowing patsies. Those three had always disliked how Uzu had been so prominent, with Danzo quite plainly greedy for the many powerful fuinjutsu techniques that the Uzumaki had at their command. It was of no surprise that they were behind the total suppression of Uzushiyogakure's existence, other than a small note that it had been destroyed at the start of the Second Great Ninja War. Until recently, Sarutobi had been too tired to do much other than the thrice-damned paperwork and block attempts to have Naruto further ostracized by the civilian council, but with the revelation of exactly how much his surrogate grandson had been putting up with unbeknownst to him, a fire had been lit inside the old Hokage. The Sandaime Kami no Shinobi was back and no one would do further harm to Naruto or any other citizen of Konoha if he had a say in matters. Later. Naruto's apartment. Ah, Naruto-kun, Sarutobi said as he entered his favorite orphan's home. The place looks wonderful. Are those storage scrolls? Naruto grinned excitedly. Yeah, just type 1 scrolls, but I have to practice making something to get better at fuinjutsu. The old man hid a smile as the hyperactive blonde dragged him over to the table where over 50 type 1 storage scrolls were stacked in neat little stacks. Examining some of them, Sarutobi had to admit they were very well done for an amateur, almost being good enough to sell. It didn't surprise him in the slightest, as members of the Uzumaki clan had a nice supernatural edge when it came to the art of sealing. He was modestly skilled at it himself, which was how he could tell that while rough in some places, the skill Naruto was showing with fuinjutsu was doing his ancestors proud. He hoped that the boy made it to Chunin soon so he could give him his mother's inheritance. Kushina would no doubt beat him up when he died for not giving him the scrolls to do with the Uzumaki clan now rather than later, but he simply couldn't afford for those who might wish Naruto further harm to find out about it until he was strong enough. Now then, Naruto-kun, the old man sighed as he sat down and accepted a cup of tea from the boy. I am so very sorry that you had to endure that attack this morning. Rest assured, this matter is being thoroughly investigated by the Anbu. How are you feeling after your first kill? I'm better, Naruto replied, slumping a bit as he spoke. I got some good advice from Neko-san, so I've been better than just after I realized what I did. It isn't easy, is it? No number it isn't, Sarutobi replied gently. I am sad to say that it will become easier as you kill more. A sad fact of being human is that we can get used to anything given enough time. Still, killing is not always the way to go. Naruto-kun. This time was an accident, but next time, make certain that your clones know to aim their ninjutsu to cripple rather than kill. The boy nodded solemnly. Will do, Gigi. Now, as you heard, I gave Tenten-chan C-rank pay for her actions. The old Hokage continued. Sadly, I cannot pay you for your actions, which both your reports make clear contributed to holding the missing ninja at bay, but I can give you these. Reaching into his sleeves, he pulled out 2 scrolls and set them before a wide-eyed Naruto. These jutsu scrolls contain a Kaiden technique and a Suiten technique, he explained. But I'm Futon primary, Doden secondary, Naruto said in confusion. While it is important to learn jutsu that naturally costs less chakra to use and is more effective when you use it, it is also important to have a wide variety of skills to use. Learning ninjutsu outside of your primary elemental affinities is one of those skills. Sarutobi lectured him. I was born with primary Kaiden, secondary Doden, and I was happy with those skills for a while. Then I lost when I fought someone who was a primary Suiten, secondary Lightning, so I started to learn jutsu outside of my primaries so that would never happen again. I continued doing it, and eventually mastered Suiten, Raiden and Futon in addition to Kaiden and Doden. Something no shinobi save for the Rikudo Sennin has ever accomplished, earning me the title of Sandaime Kami no Shinobi. A great thing from small beginnings. Understood, Gigi. Naruto nodded. About Tenten, did you know that she doesn't know any ninjutsu outside of the Academy 3? This earned him a raised eyebrow. No, but it doesn't surprise me. Maeda Guy promised Rock Lee to only use taijutsu as long as he was his student. I had assumed that he was getting a tutor in to teach Hyuga Neji and Tenten, but your words lead me to believe he has not. Naruto shook his head. Just taijutsu, basic fuinjutsu and weapon forms. I see. Dare I hope that you have plans to rectify this situation? Sarutobi asked, mentally scheduling a meeting with Guy for neglecting his kunoichi student. I will, but the scrolls I've been reading from have gone missing. Naruto admitted, I've memorized them, but it would be useful if she could read the jutsu I'm teaching her. What jutsu do you know? Sarutobi asked. Doden, Dangan, Doden, Gansetsukan, Futon, Senfukyu, Futon, Kaiden Shuriken, Doden, Mogaragakure and Doden, Iwa Bunshin. Naruto rattled off, plus whatever those jutsu are. I'll furnish you with copies of those jutsu by Saturday. Sarutobi frowned. If someone was sneaking into Naruto's apartment when he wasn't there was no telling what he or she might be doing. He resolved to have Neiko go over the entire apartment the next time Naruto was out attending the academy. Oh, by the way, I found a Fuinjutsu scroll in Training Ground 13. Naruto mentioned a Fuinjutsu. Kiji Boi, I think. Do you know what it does? Ah, that's an old one. Sarutobi chuckled. It is a basic, but effective way of enhancing the defensive properties of clothes against a particular form of attack. It's rarely used nowadays, but it is useful if you know that your enemies are going to be taijutsu users, kenjutsu users or ninjutsu users in advance. The downsides are that the seal only works against one specific type of attack. It has to be empowered with chakra, and that once that chakra reservoir is depleted, the seal is useless until you have a chance to recharge it. I'll have to see about learning it once I'm good enough at Fuinjutsu. Naruto said thoughtfully. It was only then that Sarutobi noticed the new jacket that the blonde wore, a jacket that he recognized. Is that a Fujin series jacket, Naruto-kun? He asked with raised eyebrows. A lesser one, yes. The boy confirmed, found it in Training Ground 13, bundled up in a tree hollow. Took a bit of time to clean it and mend it, but it's as good as new now. Why? Those were a limited series of clothing that was put into production over a decade ago. The Hokage answered with a chuckle. The lesser Fujin series had a jacket, trousers and sandals, while the greater Fujin series had all that plus a t-shirt, haori, gauntlets and greaves. All had elegant fuinjutsu that had various effects on futon ninjutsu. I must confess that I thought most were still languishing in attics, as not many use wind jutsu these days. I'm glad to see that one will be used as it was intended. Yeah, I'll have to see if Tenten has any in her shop. Naruto said brightly before frowning, if her parents will let me see her after today. Oh, you don't need to worry about that. The Hokage chuckled. They were angry at me though, as it is my responsibility to make certain that the borders of Konoha are monitored so this sort of thing doesn't happen. You, my boy, earned their respect for not running. As a civilian, you were not compelled to fight against missing ninja. As if I'd let Tenten fight against them alone. Naruto huffed, especially after what they said they were gonna do to her, even if it was just a cover story. Sarutobi chuckled again. Yes, that was just like Naruto. Hokage-sama. Neiko appeared in a puff of smoke behind the village leader. You wished me to remind you about the fact you're hosting dinner at your home for Asuma-san and Asahi-san. Ah, so I am. Is it that time already? The Sandaime mused as he glanced at the time. Well, it seems I must be off. Naruto-kun. Neiko-san here will bring you the scrolls you requested soon. Thanks, Gigi. Tell Asuma-sensei his apartment is ready for him to move into whenever he wants." Naruto waved bye to him and Neiko as the two left. "I'll do that, my boy." Sarutobi chuckled before vanishing in a shunshin with Neiko. Chapter 13. Fields overcome the mountain. The next day, early morning. Tenten's room, Higurashi residence. Higurashi Tenten yawned as she got up from her bed and padded into the bathroom. She was the only one who used it, as her parents had an ensuite. As she went through her daily ablutions on autopilot, her mind was wandering, especially focusing on the previous day. For the first time, she had been in serious danger inside the walls of Konoha. Not only that, she had beaten the crap out of at least one of them, alongside her new friend, Uzumaki Naruto. She bit her lip. Naruto was an academy student, but that still meant that he was a civilian. He hadn't had to step up to fight alongside her, yet he had done so. He had shocked her, actually, with just how many ninjutsu he knew. 3 Doden and a futon were an incredible amount for a mid-level genin to know. Never mind an academy student. And yet I still only know the Academy 3. She thought sourly as she headed back to her room. True, she liked weapons, but that didn't mean that she didn't want to learn ninjutsu. She was really unhappy with Guy-sensei and would be putting some pressure on him to at least arrange a ninjutsu tutor for her. Neji, the bun-haired kunoichi, disdained the use of anything other than ninjutsu and taijutsu created and used by the Hyuga clan and, begrudgingly, the Academy 3. Anything else was unfit for the use of a member of the Hyuga clan, in his own words. Lee literally couldn't mold enough chakra for external chakra techniques. Reinforcing his body's durability with chakra, yes. Enhancing his strength with chakra, yes. Any actual ninjutsu or genjutsu, no, it wasn't his fault, but it was an irrevocable fact that it was impossible for him. Even F-rank practice jutsu were so far beyond him it wasn't even funny. She could see why Guy-sensei had focused so much on Lee. The poor guy, no pun intended, had needed a serious morale boost, as well as skills to match other shinobi without using ninjutsu, but she could say that learning no ninjutsu after just under 2 years was a bit much. Dismissing her thoughts for the moment, Tenten got changed into her usual kunoichi outfit and tightened up her hair buns before heading downstairs for breakfast. Her Ka-san was at the stove, making breakfast, while her Oto-san was sitting at the table reading a paper. Very domestic. "And why aren't you at the forge, Oto-san?" Tenten asked archly. "You still have to finish Naruto's Kodachi. Not to mention my sword." Tatsuhiko winced slightly. "I was just waiting for you to come down, dear." His daughter merely raised an eyebrow at him, giving him a, "Yeah, right, look. He's just being protective of you, Ten-chan." Kanae called over her shoulder as she served up some fired toast with an egg on top, with some side salad. "It was a rather large shock we got yesterday. Nuke-nin inside Konoha's walls, attacking our daughter and her friend. I'm surprised he isn't trying to make you take a couple of days off from shinobi duties." Kanae, her husband, moaned. "No chance." Tenten stated flatly as she sat down. "Naruto fought as a civilian and actually killed one of those bastards. I need to step up my training." "You already train most of the hours a day when you aren't in the shop," Tatsuhiko protested. "Yeah, but I'm going to have to learn some ninjutsu." Tenten countered as Kanae served her. "My bukajutsu techniques are all very well, but some wide-area ninjutsu would have been useful yesterday. Naruto knows at least 4 elemental ninjutsu already." "My," Kanae murmured, impressed. "Most genin know 1. Perhaps 2 within the first year. 3 before he's even graduated from the academy. Now that is impressive. I just don't get how he hasn't graduated yet." The brunette muttered as she chowed down on her food. "I mean, he was making Iwabunshin pop out left and right yesterday." Tatsuhiko and Kanae exchanged looks before the male put forth, "Because Naruto-san has too much chakra to use the regular bunshin, a fact that wasn't known until recently. As you know, the final exam requires those without special exemptions to display a certain degree of mastery of all 3 of the Academy 3, including the bunshin." But then, how's Naruto going to pass?" Tenten asked in dismay and mild outrage. Intellectually, she had known all of that, but hearing it said aloud by her parents was another thing entirely. "I'd bet that Hokage-sama will pass down an exemption so that Naruto will pass with proven mastery of any kind of bunshin." Kanae said comfortingly as she laid a hand on her daughter's shoulder reassuringly. The system is fair, Ten-chan. You just have to be patient sometimes. Mollified at the words of her mother, Tenten sat back and finished her breakfast. Later training field 9 Tenten felt her right eye twitch as she was, once more, subjected to the antics of her sensei and most eccentric teammate howling about the springtime of youth at the top of their voices. Remind me why I haven't gone insane yet, she asked her other teammate. Misery loves company. Hyuga Neji replied dryly. He was dressed in his usual outfit of shorts, a shirt and a bandaged right arm. Tenten had once had a crush on him, but that had simmered down to mere camaraderie between teammates over the time since their team had been formed. Once Guy and Lee finished their youthful moment and calmed down, the training really kicked off. As usual, she was doing accuracy and speed drills. Neji occasionally sparred with Guy-sensei, while most of Guy's attention went to sparring enthusiastically with Lee, occasionally stopping to correct his form and give him katas to run through while he sparred with Neji. Again as usual, she was pretty much left alone. Guy was a taijutsu master, with only the very basics when it came to shurikenjutsu and fuinjutsu, meaning he couldn't really teach her more than what she already knew, which had been fine with Tenten up until about 6 months ago. She had been eager to become adept at taijutsu, as she wanted to nullify the weakness of a ranged specialist as much as possible, which had been done. She was not as skilled as either of her teammates, but she was surprisingly strong for her size and far more skilled than she had been when she had been the top kunoichi of her graduating class, which was saying something. Her style was a heavily modified version of the Hokage style used in the academy. It was so heavily modified that Guy had encouraged her to choose a name for it. A youthful name, of course. She got her father to choose and so was born the Soko Ken. Still, once the taijutsu issue had been solved, she had been hoping for something more than, go and master all the weapons you can, from her sensei. She had dutifully done so, and had mastered dual kunai, shuriken, dai shuriken, sansetsukan, wakizashi, kodachi, katana, tanto, kusarigama, kama, ninjutsu, kusari fundo and another couple of weapons that she couldn't quite remember at the moment. She was currently working on the joyo, or rope dart. This was very easy for Tenten, as she had made most of her weapons herself and had a natural knack for learning the kata for each weapon, as well as the ability to switch almost seamlessly between each weapon without interrupting the flow of her attacks. With weapons in hand, Neji actually had to activate his Byakugan, White Eye, in order to take her down, and Lee had to remove his weights. Higurashi Tenten was no pushover, that was for certain. Still, her skill set had been feeling stale for a while now. The incident yesterday with the nuke nin had crystallized that feeling. She wanted to be able to broaden her skill set, now. Yosh, my youthful students, Guy bellowed at the end of their training session, tomorrow, we shall accept some missions. Sleep well tonight, for we work youthfully on the morrow. Neji said nothing as he trudged away, while Lee ran off to do some ridiculous training regime that Guy-sensei had set. Tenten? Is there something the matter? The bowl-cut Jonin asked. I would start to learn some ninjutsu, Guy-sensei, she said bluntly. Dancing around the subject would give him too many chances to dodge her request. Do you not wish to be a weapons mistress? He asked carefully after a moment, his face carefully neutral. Well, yeah, but I haven't really learned anything new, weapon styles to one side, in months. The kunoichi pointed out, and yesterday, I got shown that an academy student could quite easily give me a run for my money. He used 4 different elemental ninjutsu, 3 doden and 1 futon, against the nuke nin. He did better than I did. An understanding expression came upon Guy's face. You refer to young Uzumaki Naruto, correct? I have heard that he is most youthful, aside from the pranks he plays on the populace. He's a good kid. Tenten agreed. He stepped up to fight those nuke nin with me without even hesitating for a moment. He didn't have to. He's still a civilian, but he fought and actually killed one. Hokage-sama must have been most displeased. I hear that he treats Naruto-kun as if he were his own grandson. Guy remarked, still, 4 elemental ninjutsu, you say? A remarkable achievement for an academy student indeed. The bun-haired girl agreed with him, but they were getting way off topic. So can I learn some ninjutsu? I have been trying to find a tutor for you for a while now. Guy admitted, regrettably, my eternal rival, who was my first choice for such a task, has been on a mission for the last 2 months. Sarutobi Asuma, a former member of the 12 Guardian Ninja, is a possibility, but he specializes in Kaiten, Futon Jutsu. I can give you a test to see which element you favor, if you like. It would help narrow down who I ask as a tutor. Eagerly, Tenten nodded. The leotard-wearing Jonin pulled out a square piece of paper from his flak jacket and handed it to her. Channel your chakra through this. Concentrating, the kunoichi did as she was asked. The paper caught a light on one side and crinkled up slightly on the other. Primary Kaiten affinity, with a secondary Raiden affinity. The Jonin nodded. Very good. I shall ask Asuma-san if he will lend his talents to aiding you in fanning the flames of your youth. He then made his nice guy pose, sparkling teeth and all. Tenten had to grin at that. She was relieved that he hadn't been ignoring her all this time, that he had been looking for a way to teach her ninjutsu without breaking his promise to Rock Lee. Heading back to her home after that was a relief. One good thing about Guy-sensei was that he didn't mollycoddle her because she was a girl. He pushed her just as hard as Lee and Neji without reservation or hesitation. Not to toot her own horn, but that made her the strongest kunoichi of her generation. Almost all of the rest had either failed their genin tests or were just mediocre lifetime genin. The brunette found a sneer on her face as she thought about the bane of real kunoichi. Fangirls. From what little Naruto had said about his class, most of the students in his year fell under that category. Except for Neji's cousin Hinata and perhaps the Sakura-chan girl that he so obviously had a crush on. She ignored the slight twinge that her heart developed at that though. Getting back to her house and taking a long, cleansing shower was one of the few luxuries she allowed herself on days with ninja training. She didn't like being girly over much, but being clean most of the time was something that was universal to most girls who had any sense of self-respect. Redressing in another copy of her outfit, she took over from her mother at the counter and started sharpening some of her personal kunai. She liked the repetitive action of sharpening a bladed weapon as it was ingrained into her muscle memory, allowing her mind to wander and focus on other, weightier, subjects. She was broken out of her thoughts by the shop's front door creaking open and a familiar blonde head of hair poking through somewhat nervously. Naruto, she called in confusion. Why was he acting so nervous? Tenten, her friend asked in an almost frightened voice. Are you okay? She asked in concern. Those nuke nin didn't get any hits in on you yesterday, did they? A confused expression crossed the boy's face for a moment. No, I'm fine. How about you? Not a scratch. Tenten reassured him. Why are you so nervous? I think he's worried about our reaction to what happened yesterday, Ten-chan. Her mother said in amusement as she came out of the back and leaned forward, resting her arms on the countertop. I think he's worried about us blaming him for you being attacked. Am I right, Naruto-kun? Why yeah, pretty much. Naruto admitted. Those guys were there to kidnap me. Gigi thinks so anyway. Tenten clenched her hands at the memory of what those bastards had threatened to do to her and Naruto. No way were her parents going to lay any blame on him because of something outside of his control. She sent a pointed look at her mother that transmitted this to her. Don't worry, dear. Kanae said with a smile, your father and I are retired shinobi, remember? We are well aware that a victim is exactly that. A victim. Blaming Naruto-kun would be stupid in this situation, right, Hinata? Tatsuhiko stepped forward, looming over his wife and daughter with a painfully neutral look on his face as he gazed down at a sweating Naruto. He lost that look when Kanae and Tenten both elbowed him in the gut pointedly. Yes, I agree that it was hardly Naruto-san's fault. He admitted begrudgingly. That being said, I am not happy she got attacked inside Konoha. We already spoke to Hokage-sama about this, Hinata. Kanae said patiently. Do tell what you expect an academy student like Naruto-kun to do about it. He didn't even have to help Ten-chan fight yesterday, but he did. We should be grateful that he did help her, or Ten-chan might have been hurt badly by those nuke nen. Okawa-san. Tenten whined, not wanting to be babied in front of her friend. Really, why did parents have to be so embarrassing? Naruto, now looking relieved, pulled out a couple of scrolls from his pouch and held them up. Well, now that I know I'm not in trouble. Gigi gave me these scrolls yesterday in lieu of payment for what I did. One's a Kaiten jutsu and one's a Suiten jutsu. I was thinking I could lend you one to study if it matches your affinities. Tenten blinked. Seriously? That would be great. I just found out that I'm a primary Kaden affinity today actually. What's the jutsu? Kaden. Hotarubi, fire style. Firefly fires, Naruto answered. It's a high D-rank jutsu, so it'll be challenging to learn without being too dangerous. Sounds perfect. Kanae beamed. May I ask what the Sweden jutsu is? Sweden Ninpo. Mizuame Bakuho, water-style ninja art. Starch syrup binding rope. A low C-rank jutsu. Naruto replied promptly. Are either of those your elemental affinities? Tatsuhiko asked curiously. Ten-chan said that you used Doten and Futon jutsu mostly. Well yeah, but Gigi said it's always a good idea to learn jutsu outside of your affinities just in case. The blonde boy shrugged. My primary affinity is Futon, but those jutsu are so rare that most of my jutsu are Doten. How many Futon jutsu do you know? Tenten asked curiously. Just 2. Futon. Senfukyu and Futon. Kaden Shuriken. Naruto answered. Neither of them are what you might call strong, but I think I'll get there with practice. He held out the Kaden scroll and Tenten gratefully accepted it before giving him a hug as thanks. Kanae then spotted Naruto's new jacket. Is that a lesser Fujin jacket? Oh, yeah it is. Found it a few days ago and just got it cleaned up yesterday after I got back from, you know. Naruto kicked at the ground embarrassedly. Gigi told me about how they help with Futon jutsu, so I was wondering if there were any other parts of the set for sale here? Tatsuhiko frowned and thought. I think we have a pair of the trousers and a t-shirt from the Greater Fujin series, but not the Lesser Fuji. That'd be alright? Yeah. Naruto agreed eagerly. Chuckling, Tatsuhiko returned to the back to pull the items out of storage. No one had wanted to buy them, so they weren't on the racks. Coming back, he showed Naruto the trousers, which were a muted green color with blue trimming and looked just like any ordinary set of combat trousers, with the kanji for wind located over the right-hand pocket in black fabric. The t-shirt was green also, with the wind kanji in white on the center of the front, outlined in black. How much? The academy student asked at once. Just pay for the t-shirt. Tatsuhiko said gruffly. Take the trousers as thanks for helping my princess yesterday. Odo-san. Tenten wailed in furious embarrassment. Later, Naruto's apartment getting in. Naruto pulled the new items out of his inventory. He had only gone to apologize for getting Tenten in danger, but he hadn't expected to get his hands on one of the Greater Fujin set. He used his observe skill on them both to see what they did. Lesser Fujin battle trousers. Emblazoned with the kanji for wind. These trousers are perfect for one who aspires to wield Futon ninjutsu, as it is said that one who wears it will have their Futon ninjutsu empowered. Part of the Lesser Fujin set. Level 12 def plus 25 effect. Minor wind chakra cost reduction. Chakra point cost for all Futon ninjutsu reduced by 5 CP. Greater Fujin t-shirt. Emblazoned with the kanji for wind. This t-shirt is perfect for one who aspires to wield Futon ninjutsu, as it is said that one who wears it will have their Futon ninjutsu greatly empowered. Part of the Greater Fujin set. Level 15 requires level 5 Futon affinity. Def plus 35. Effect 1. Wind damage reduction. All damage from Futon ninjutsu is reduced by 5%. Effect 2. Armor of the wind. Adds plus 10 chakra armor to all locations. Drains 3 CP per minute to keep active. Grants an extra plus 20 chakra armor against Raiden ninjutsu. Adds plus 30 to damage from Kaden ninjutsu. Whoa! Naruto exclaimed with wide eyes. The Lesser Fujin battle trousers were cool, but the Greater Fujin t-shirt seriously rocked. Shame he couldn't put it on yet. Stupid level requirement, just like his Tonto. He frowned as he noticed that both his weapons and the best armor he had been able to find thus far both required him to be LV-15. Did that mean that he hit a level cap at LV-15? It would make sense, considering most of the genin he saw were all at least level 15, with Tenten being on the high side for a genin at level 23, with most chunin being above level 25, but there were a few lower than that. I guess it makes sense. When we graduate, it might act as a class upgrade from academy student to genin, I guess. Naruto reasoned. He had picked up a few game guides earlier on in the day. They had explained that classes were a big part of most RPG-type games, which surprised him somewhat, as the gamer did no such thing. Dismissing the concern for the moment, Naruto changed into his new trousers and went to make his dinner, feeling content with the training he'd done that day. A month later, Naruto's apartment name, Uzumaki Naruto. Class: the gamer level, 14, next level, 79.98% title. Academy student, plus 25% expressed to LV10. Age: 12 HP, 1700 CP, 1700 STR, 41 STA, 45, plus 10. Dex: 32 INT, 32 WIS, 35 LUK. Nodding at his stats, and slightly pissed that he still hadn't leveled up after a whole month, Naruto closed his window and looked proudly at the steady work of 10 shadow clones working furiously at the Type 1 scrolls. It had been just over a week since his skill at Fuinjutsu had reached level 5, which had made all the scrolls made since at the level that could be sold. He was planning on making them in bulk so he could sell them to the Higurashis for 600 Ryo a scroll. All of his other skills had gone up in the last month as well. His natural futon affinity remained hard to level up, but the addition of the Senfukyu had been a boon in that department, plus the teachings of Asuma Sensei. The bearded Jonin had moved into his apartment a few days after the Nuke Nin incident and had been an excellent teacher. Under his tutelage, Naruto's skill with the Wind Jutsu had skyrocketed, with Kaden Shuriken having risen to LV15 and Senfukyu to LV8. An unexpected thing had been the fact that Tenten had been joining their classes as well, at the request of her Jonin sensei apparently. She had a very good work ethic and Asuma sensei had joked about poaching her from Guy, who was presumably Tenten's Jonin sensei. She had already mastered the basics of Kaden Hotarubi and was currently being taught Kaden Kakyu, Fire Style, Fireball, which was apparently a lesser version of Sasuke Tami's clan's favorite fire jutsu, the Gokakyu no Jutsu, Grand Fireball Jutsu. Of course, Naruto had been learning new jutsu too, including Hotarubi. Kaden Hotarubi no Jutsu, active, LV3, 25.19 EXP. Fire Style. Firefly Fires is a D-ranked jutsu designed to introduce beginners to Kaden Jutsu. After making the hand signs, the user breathes out a stream of up to hundreds of tiny fireballs about the size of a dice. Ordinarily a weak jutsu of no danger to anyone of Chunin rank or above. A true master of this jutsu can make the fireballs explode to cause extra damage at command. Hand signs. Tiger Ox Monkey Boar Tiger Hare. Range, 2 meters. Number of fireballs created, 50. Damage per mini fireball, 5. Costs 40 CP to use. Sweden Ninpo. Mizuame Bakuho, active, LV2, 54.78 EXP. A non-lethal jutsu designed to capture and/or restrain the targets, water-style ninja art. Starch syrup binding rope is a short to mid-range technique. After making the correct hand sign, the user needs chakra in their stomach and converts it to high-viscosity water before spitting it out at their opponent. It wraps around the targets and restricts their movement. This jutsu was created by the Eternal Chunin Izumo and Katetsu, along with 2 other syrup-based jutsu. Hand sign. Ram. Range, 5 meters. Able to bind, 1 man-sized target. Duration of binding, 3 minutes. Durability of binding, 30 DP. Chakra cost, 50 CP per shot. Futon. Ryuhin no Jutsu. Active, LV3, 34.59 EXP. The Wind Style. Dragon Wave Jutsu was originally developed in what would become Kei's no Kuni by a wandering tribe of ninjutsu practitioners who had little to no access to metal or wood, leaving them with just their fists and feet to fight with. Using no hand signs, the user gathers wind chakra around their clenched fist before unleashing it at their enemy, shaping it to look like the head of a dragon. For amateur users, it can take some time before it can be fired, but experience will make it combat-worthy. Time to charge up, 50 seconds, range, 5 meters. Damage dealt, 55 plus 7 plus 5 chakra cost, 47 as the first two weren't from one of his affinities. The chakra costs were way higher than he was used to, but the effects were pretty damn good as well. Being able to immobilize an enemy was pretty sweet, and the Kaiden was pretty nice too. According to Asuma-sensei, practicing with other elements would eventually make one of them his third affinity, but that was unlikely until he was a Jonin himself. He would have to choose carefully. I have Doden, which cancels out Kaiden Jutsu and is pierced by Raiden Jutsu, and Futon, which cancels out Raiden and empowers Kaiden. He thought as he slipped his sandals on, Raiden is neutralized by Futon and pierces through Doden. Kaiden absorbs Futon and is cancelled out by Suiden, which is weak against Doden. Choosing which one to train into my third affinity isn't gonna be easy. The third jutsu was the one of the quest rewards for him getting Asuma-sensei living in his building, and boy, did it pack a punch. The length of time it took to charge up was not good, but otherwise the jutsu was a good one. Today marked the 3-month anniversary of when he had received his gamer power, and Naruto was glad to say that he had improved by leaps and bounds from where he had been before. Even Sasuke Teme was giving how Naruto still hadn't beaten the bastard in a taijutsu match. He definitely let him know that he'd been there, but his speed and greater mastery of whatever the hell kind of taijutsu style he used gained him the upper hand in their fights. Speaking of fights, it's almost time for Ino and Sakura-chan to throw down. Just another week to go. Naruto thought with a grin. Sakura had thankfully lost the malnourished status just last week and had gained a few points in her STR and STA as a result. Her training with him and her father had added a few points as well, which meant that Naruto was almost certain to complete the quest he had with her to improve her stats, as well as the one where Sakura had to beat her old rival in a taijutsu spar. He had just the prize to give his crush if she won as well. In the training ground the other day, he had gotten a jutsu scroll for a slightly more complex variant of the Bunshin no Jutsu. Suiden. Suioki Bunshin no Jutsu. Water style. Water vapor clone jutsu. It used slightly more chakra than the standard illusion clone, but still needed more chakra control than he would likely ever have, so giving it to someone like Sakura, who had excellent chakra control but poor reserves, was a good idea. Unlike his Iwa Bunshin, the Suioki Bunshin, according to the scroll, had very little physical presence, so couldn't attack in close combat. Similar to Iwa Bunshin however, they could use whatever Suiden jutsu the original knew, although they could only fire off maybe 1 or 2 high D-rank jutsu or a single C-rank jutsu before dispelling into vapor. Still, it was a step up from that damn illusion clone. He still hadn't managed to get into the third area of Training Ground 13, even after a month. Something always happened to make him put it off. One contrived coincidence after another. Study sessions with Sakura-chan that he was late for, training sessions with Asuma-sensei and Tenten that ate up his time. Ramen visits with Iruka-sensei that ran overtime as they caught up with each other. He'd concluded that his own damn gamer power was actively working against him in that department until he attained level 15 and could then equip Tsubaki and Sumair. He had been warned that he needed proper weapons to face what lay within, after all, so it made sense. Just about the only fly in the ointment over the last month or so was that Mizuki had been stepping up his sabotage attempts on him. Now that he knew what to look for and he was keeping his guard up around the silver-haired man, Naruto spotted the dozen or so attempts during Taijutsu Kata time to teach him to leave his stance open or weak, the incorrect throwing technique he showed him during shuriken throwing practice, and the slightly altered questions on the weekly tests. He simply ignored the incorrect stances and reported the paper to Iruka-sensei, saying that there must have been a mix-up as the questions weren't anything to do with what they had been taught. The look on Mizuki's face had been priceless. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto was pretty happy with himself and his life. It would only get better once he graduated and finally became a ninja. A week later, training room, Imikage Apartments. Haruno Sakura felt ill. She had butterflies in her stomach, she felt lightheaded, her legs felt as if they were overcooked noodles and her arms felt as if they had lead weights attached to them. "Calm down, Sakura-chan," Naruto said encouragingly, "you'll win. Not easily, but you'll win." She shot her somewhat friend a light glare. "Your skills at encouragement suck, Naruto." Yes, she was going to have a taijutsu spar with Ino, her old frenemy. If she won, she would finally be rid of that damn nickname that Ino called her. If not, Naruto would be footing the bill for one of Ino's insane shopping sprees. When she had been told about this a month previously, she had punched Naruto into the wall for betting on her without her consent before he had told her he bet on her because he honestly believed she had a very good chance at beating the Yamanaka heiress. That had made her feel odd, warm and fluttery inside. She had quickly thrown the feeling off because she wanted her Sasuke-kun, not Naruto. No matter how he gave her more attention than Sasuke or that he was actively helping her become a stronger kunoichi. Naruto was just a friend and training partner, nothing more. The pinkhead ignored a little voice at the back of her mind that disagreed with her assessment. Easy for you to say. Sakura grumbled, Ino Pig is a ninja clan heiress. She's got all the natural advantages over me. That she has been wasting. Naruto interrupted gently, she's been slacking off on her training and dieting, neither of which you do anymore. That has closed the gap between you and her more than you might think. She doesn't know how hard you've trained or how much of a difference that will make. No, I'm not giving her enough credit. She might know that in her mind, but knowing something as a theory and seeing physical evidence of that theory in action can be jarring. Use that to your advantage. Sakura nodded as Naruto stiffened. My shadow clone just dispelled. Ino and her parents are on their way up. Inoichi Oji-san and Saori Oba-san? The pinkhead looked worried before turning a suspicious look on the blonde in the room. I had no idea either, Naruto said quickly, holding his arms up in a pacifying gesture. It must be Ino's idea. Damn you, Sakura growled at her not yet present opponent. Minutes later, the Yamanaka family entered the room and Ino was treated to Sakura's emerald-eyed glare. She responded with a shrug. Hey, it wasn't my idea, forehead. Daddy and Okawa-san wanted to watch and wouldn't take no for an answer. It's not often someone challenges my princess to a taijutsu match, Sakura-chan. Inoichi said mildly, we wanted to watch and see how Ino does. You don't mind, do you? Despite the way he phrased it, the Yamanaka clan head wasn't asking a question. Sakura reluctantly shook her head. No, Oji-san. Saori walked over and patted the pinkhead on the head fondly. Do your best, Sakura-chan. Hey, Ino protested, whose side are you on? Naruto cleared his throat. I'll be acting as the referee, if that's acceptable? Sounds good, Inoichi said with a nod, be fair though. I wouldn't be anything else. Naruto promised, take your positions, please. Sakura and Ino took the center of the training room while Inoichi and Saori leaned against one of the walls. Naruto took a position between and to one side of the two kunoichi aspirants. This fight will be a best of 3 matches. Naruto said firmly. A round ends when one of you lands on your back or front as a result of the other's actions. I judge you to be unable to continue fighting or if you are forced to tap out of a submission hold. If I tell one of you to stop, you will stop or forfeit a round. Is that understood? He had looked up formal language especially for this occasion. The girls nodded once each. Okay then. Please make the Tairitsu no in, he directed. Both of the girls complied. Emerald eyes locked onto teal counterparts as the two frenemies stared each other down. Hajime, Naruto said before leaping back out of the line of fire. Ino moved in and lashed out with a basic punch that seemed way too slow for Sakura, who dodged it easily before grabbing that arm and throwing the surprised Ino into the air with unexpected strength. The blonde girl flipped in midair and landed safely though, glaring in surprise and consternation at her frenemy. Sakura, for her part, was surprised. Granted, she had been sparring against Naruto for over a month and he was much faster than Ino, and she had been getting stronger as a result of her exercises, but she had never dreamed that she could counterattack a ninja clan kunoichi like Ino so easily. Nice move, forehead, Ino called with a smirk as she straightened up. Not good enough to put me down though. We'll see about that, pig, Sakura replied with a smirk of her own. If you were holding out on me, pee it. I'm not the same girl as I was a couple of months ago. Before Ino could respond verbally, her rival darted in and let loose a quick 1-2 punch combo before driving an elbow into Ino's solar plexus, driving the wind from her lungs and making her collapse to her knees, wheezing. Round goes to Sakura-chan, Naruto declared with a barely concealed smirk. Well done, Saori whispered, with her husband nodding in agreement. What the hell? She was way too fast, Ino thought in disbelief as she got her breath back. No, it wasn't that she was fast. She was economical with her movements. She wasted as few moves as possible and hit me faster because of that. What the hell has Naruto Baka been teaching her? I did warn you that Sakura-chan would kick your ass, Ino-san. Naruto remarked blandly, earning him a glare from his fellow blonde. I haven't lost yet, the Yamanaka heiress snarled before standing with a wince and assuming a defensive stance. Apparently she wanted Sakura to come at her, despite the fact that hadn't worked out so well for her the last time. Naruto almost groaned as Sakura took the bait and charged at Ino, but barely managed to suppress it. Despite her intelligence, she had a remarkable fondness for direct action in hand-to-hand combat. Attack is the best form of defense, he had heard Iruka-sensei call it. This time it was Ino who danced out of the way of Sakura's attack, swiftly, although still slowly to Naruto's eyes, unleashing a triple kick combo that had Sakura on the defensive almost at once. Naruto had noted that about Ino. She had long legs and did prefer to kick rather than punch if given the choice. You're thrashing your legs like an upturned pig, Sakura teased. Ino scowled at the taunt. Better than having a forehead that can reflect the sun. Ow. They're going after each other's weaknesses. Naruto winced. Girls could be vicious when they wanted to be. Sakura caught Ino's leg and tried to flip her over, but was once more unsuccessful as the Yamanaka heiress regained control of herself in midair once again and landed somewhat ungainly on one knee. Nice try, forehead, but you aren't beating me that way, Ino said with pride. I'm too good at recovering myself in midair. If sending you flying won't work, I'll just beat you down here on the ground, Sakura growled and charged again. The two kunoichi aspirants continued exchanging blows, but the three onlookers could see that Ino was tiring already, while Sakura was relatively fresh. The lack of dieting and the exercise had done wonders for her stamina and endurance. Ino grunted in pain as a well-placed blow sent her staggering back, panting. She was actually losing, it was unbelievable. Could not dieting make this much difference? She wondered before dismissing the concern. Now wasn't the time for thinking, it was time to take down her old friend. Drawing deep on her small reserves of stamina, she launched herself back at Sakura, leaping into the air and raising one leg, bringing it down in a strong axe drop kick that drove Sakura to her knees when she made the mistake of blocking it. Her blonde rival didn't waste the opportunity as she used Sakura as a springboard, leaping over her before kicking her in the back, sending her sprawling to the ground. Round goes to Ino, Naruto declared. It hadn't been without its cost to Ino's stamina reserves though. He could see that she was tired, although she wasn't tapped out quite yet. She wasn't used to this level of exertion and her dieting had deprived her of the energy she needed to get through it properly. Right now, most of what was keeping her on her feet was sheer pig-headedness, no pun intended. Sakura, meanwhile, had staggered to her feet, wincing slightly at the slight pain in her back and grateful that the training room they were in had a padded floor to absorb impacts, otherwise she would be more sore than she currently was. I have to win, she thought as she stretched and turned to face her panting, tired frenemy. I am not inferior to Ino. I am the top kunoichi. Damn it. I didn't spend these last 2 months training my ass off for nothing. Off to the side, Inoichi silently watched the match unfold. He was, needless to say, slightly disappointed in Ino's performance. She was on her figurative last legs and had been sloppy in quite a few places. That she had won a round was down to Sakura's inexperience when dealing with kicks. The Hokage style didn't have many of them in the beginner and intermediate levels, which was likely all Sakura had trained in, whereas Ino had studied some of the advanced level even if only slightly. Sakura, on the other hand, had improved by leaps and bounds. Her taijutsu had been weak before and it had come so far after only a couple of months. Add in the lack of dieting and he was certain that as long as she didn't get overconfident, Sakura would likely win this match. Saori was also watching her daughter's eyes, which were full of disbelief and shock. Ino still couldn't understand how Sakura had managed to improve her taijutsu so much, so quickly. The fact that she was still reeling from discovering how much stronger her rival had become was a psychological advantage for Sakura. As long as Ino was kept off balance, Sakura had a high chance of winning when combined with the physical advantages she enjoyed. This time it was Sakura who assumed a defensive stance and waited for Ino to come to her. The two circled each other carefully, neither willing to commit to an attack yet. The tension between them was taut and ready to snap at the slightest provocation. which Sakura did by sticking her tongue out at Ino and saying, "Come get it, pig." "Why you little?" The blonde girl snarled and leapt to the attack. A roundhouse kick snapped out at her rival, who ducked under it and countered with a punch-kick combo that Ino managed to block with some difficulty. The momentary respite had restored some of Ino's stamina, but not terribly much of it. The two traded blows for another couple of minutes, but Ino was flagging fast and even she recognized that. In desperation, she tried another axe dropkick, but Sakura wasn't stupid. She dodged to one side and drove an elbow into Ino's side, making the Yamanaka heiress gasp in pain, before slipping around behind her and putting Ino into a chokehold. Ino scrabbled at the thin but strong arm wrapped around her neck, but it was no use. Ino rasped out. Sakura immediately let her go, allowing the beaten heiress to collapse onto her butt, gasping for air. Naruto smirked for a moment before declaring, "Winner by forfeit, Sakura-chan." Inoichi and Saori walked over and knelt beside their daughter, who was silently crying in frustration. "Daddy?" Ino looked up when Inoichi placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You did your best, princess. That's all anyone can ask," Inoichi said gently. "What matters now is what you're going to do going forward." The blonde girl's back straightened and she turned and glared at Naruto, who was smirking unrepentantly at her. "You knew I would lose." "No, I had an extremely good hunch that you would lose." Naruto corrected her. "So, are you willing to pay the piper?" Ino growled. "Fine. I won't call Sakura-chan that name anymore. Happy?" "Ecstatic." The blonde boy smirked before pulling a scroll out and tossing it to Sakura, who caught it with a stunned look on her face. "Here. A reward for winning." This, Sweden. Suioki Bunshin no Jutsu?" Sakura stammered. "I can't, why?" 1. Hard work earns rewards. 2. I have no chakra control worth mentioning, so I can't use it. Naruto rattled off. 3. You're a civilian kunoichi candidate and will know nothing but the Academy 3 when you graduate, so this will at least give you a better version of one of them. The Suioki Bunshin? Haven't seen that one in a while. Inoichi mused. Used to be an optional choice rather than the regular Bunshin, but not many people tried it out and it was phased out about a decade ago. It would be perfectly acceptable for you to use. While the conversation was going on between the two blondes and the pinkette, Ino sat and pouted in the arms of her mother. "I hate losing." "I know, my dear. I know," Saori muttered, "but in this case, I think losing was the best thing for you. After all, you know what must be done now, don't you? No more diet and exercise properly." Ino sighed despondently. "Good girl." Saori smirked. Later, Naruto's apartment. The blonde orphan breathed out a sigh as he re-entered his home after seeing the three Yamanaka and Sakura-chan out of his front door. He now paid grinning attention to the window floating in front of him. Quest complete. Fields and Mountains. Haruno Sakura successfully defeated her rival, frenemy Yamanaka Ino. Quest completion rewards. Plus 2000 XP, plus 500 reputation with Haruno Sakura, plus 500 reputation with Yamanaka Ino, plus 5000 Ryo, Futon. Daitapa no Jutsu, scroll. Nice, Naruto grinned. Looks like I'm just a few points off from moving up to a neutral relationship with Sakura-chan. Wow, isn't that depressing? Shaking his head, the Uzumaki reached into his inventory and pulled out the Jutsu scroll. You have acquired the Futon Daitapa no Jutsu scroll. Do you wish to learn this? Why, N hitting, why? The boy grinned as the scroll dissolved into motes of light and entered his body, a new screen popping up. Congratulations! You have learned Futon Daitapa no Jutsu. Futon Daitapa no Jutsu. Active, LV1, 00, 00 XP. The Wind Style. Great Breakthrough Jutsu is the Futon analog to the Kaden Gokakyu no Jutsu and is among the most widely known and commonly used wind-style jutsu in the elemental nations. This is due to its flexibility, as the amount of chakra placed into the jutsu determines the strength of the wind. Once the hand signs have been made, the user can either manipulate the air around them to make a powerful wind or they can unleash the wind from their mouth. In the case of the latter, the wind can reach speeds that can knock down a large tree from the forest surrounding Konoha. In the hands of a master, this jutsu can be a deadly weapon. Hand signs. Tiger, ox, dog, rabbit, snake. Chakra cost. Form 157 CP. Form 2 to 67 CP. The user must select which form of the Daitapa they wish to use when making the hand signs. If Form 1 is chosen, the user manipulates the winds around them to blow away all things before them. All targets within 10 meters are struck with wind with a STR of 20. Any target with a STA less than that is sent flying, suffering 20 to 30 points of damage upon landing. Any target with STA above 20 suffers a 35% movement penalty. If Form 2 is chosen, the user unleashes a concentrated burst of wind from their mouth that has enough force to topple a fully grown tree. The user sends the blast at one target, which is automatically sent flying, suffering 40 damage as well as the chance for additional damage when they land, with a high chance of a critical. Whoa, Naruto muttered. This jutsu kicks ass, a bit more deadly than I was anticipating. Shrugging, Naruto headed to his kitchen to start on lunch. Same time, hidden location, so we are agreed? A cloaked man asked. The table he sat at was surrounded by other cloaked men and women, 13 excluding him. The room was dark and they all wore cowls that hid their identities. We are. A woman said gruffly. The demon is constantly challenging Uchiha-sama and is becoming too powerful. A rumble of agreement came from the others in the room before another voice spoke up. But after that whole mess with Nuke Nin infiltrating Konoha last month, the Anbu are bound to be more alert than ever, he said, his voice a nasal whine. What can we do? I have it on excellent authority that there are two places where IT isn't watched by the Anbu. A confident, brash voice said smugly, the Academy, and Training Ground 13. Shame the Nuke Nin didn't solve our problem for us when they attacked IT there, but oh well. But surely they're going to be watching who goes in and out of that place more strictly now, after the Nuke Nin, nasal voice protested. Why would they? The training ground was only under watch because IT was in there at the time. Brashman sneered. We'll go in early, wait in ambush and kill IT before the Anbu can do anything about it. Most of us are retired shinobi, the first woman mused. The demon should stand no chance against us all. We'd have to plan things carefully, but there's no reason why it wouldn't work. The first Moss agreed. We just have to be careful. Training Ground 13 is full of chakra mutations. Rumors say squirrels and moles at least. Wow. Squirrels and moles. I'm so fucking terrified. Brashman snorted in disgust. Grow some balls. We go in, kill the demon, get out and return to our daily lives with the Hokage and the Anbu none the wiser. Chuckling, he drew and threw a kunai in one smooth action, the weapon striking a photo of one Uzumaki Naruto right in the middle of his face. One more week and our loved ones will rest in peace, he promised darkly.